Chapter 1195. Nu Shi, are you crazy? Lin Muyu shouted in a low voice. What are you going to do? What am I going to do? Nu Shi smiled proudly. Kill you, what else can I do? Only by killing you will I feel happy, only by killing you will I feel happy, only by killing you will I have the joy of revenge. Mu Xiaoyin's step back. Tang Xiaoxi suddenly took a step forward, the raging flames around her soared into the sky, instantly rushing out of the hut, condensing into a flame wall in front of her, protecting Qin Yin and Lin Muyu from harm. Yo, the righteous god of Mahayana heavenly Tao. Nu Shi giggled. This is the first time I have seen an righteous god, but this power seems to be just Esosa. Tang Xiaoxi, it was not easy for you to become an righteous god. Do you want to destroy it now? Tang Xiaoxi looked straight at her. I don't care who you are. If you want to harm them, you have to pass through me first. Fine, you want to die. Nu Shi smiled slightly, but the devil flames around her became more and more biting cold. The whole mountain peak was illuminated by the devil flames. The scorching flames turned into monstrous flames, crushing down. Tang Xiaoxi clenched her teeth, activating the strongest breaking flame in her body to resist Nu Shi's attack, only to see the air above constantly colliding with the violent sound of air flow. The whole mountain range was shaking, the ground slowly burst open, boulders flew up as if they were freed from gravity, the whole domain has begun to become chaotic. Nu Shi held the devil flames in her hand, the corner of her mouth was full of a sinister smile. Tang Xiaoxi, how long can you last? Tang Xiaoxi also smiled. It's not how long I can last, but how long can you last? With that, she suddenly waved the breaking flame in her hand. Immediately a flame wave swept forward. The devil flames met the breaking flame in time. Nu Shi immediately groaned, spitting out a mouthful of blood. She was injured. In terms of divine power, she was still inferior to Tang Xiaoxi. For a moment, her face was full of viciousness. For a moment, she roared, "Why?" But Tang Xiaoxi was bathed in flames as she walked over with the Zhurong sacred fire sword in hand. She had a calm expression on her face as she said, Nu Shi, you've fallen too deeply into the demonic path. No one can save you. Let me release you from purgatory. Shao Shi, don't. Lin Muyu hurriedly said, Don't kill her, let her live. Tang Xiaoxi was startled, biting her red lips. Boundless flames soared into the sky, and the entire forest of no return was illuminated by this battle. The demonic flames became weaker and weaker under the suppression of the broken flame. Nu Shi, who was in the midst of the demonic flames, looked up at the sky and roared, Purple Flame Ancestor Emperor, what are you waiting for? Lend me a hand. Tang Xiaoxi was stunned. Lin Muyu felt a strong force coming from the sky, shouting, Shao Shi, be careful. Swoosh! A golden light pierced through the clouds, turning into the image of a tower, falling down. The target was locked onto Tang Xiaoxi. The cold, invisible energy came crashing down. The mountain began to completely collapse. Rocks flew down like rain. Woo woo woo. Tang Xiaoxi activated her strongest fire breaking to resist the power of the god-exterminating tower. However, how could she resist it? After a few seconds, she knelt on the ground with a whimper and vomited blood. She actually lost consciousness in the blink of an eye. Dang! Nu Shi kicked away Zhurong's sacred fire sword, stepped on Tang Xiaoxi's back with her left foot, and sneered, So what now? Your principal god has become a piece of trash. What other abilities do you have? Be *starred. Lin Muyu rushed over. The two swords contained a cold, destructive aura. It was the power of reincarnation. Oh! Nu Shi pouted her lips and looked rather shocked. She raised the devil flame in her left hand and swept it across Lin Muyu's body like a steel wall. There was a huge disparity in strength between the two. It was just a simple attack and Lin Muyu was sent rolling on the ground. Her face was covered in blood. It was obviously impossible to rely on the king's combat flame to fight against the devil flame. Let go of Shao Shi. Qin Yin held the Donghua sword, rushed into the flames without a care, endured the burning pain, and slashed out a merciful attack. Nu Shi opened her palm and forcefully grabbed the blade of the Donghua sword. The devil flames followed the blade and pressed towards Qin Yin, instantly swallowing up Qin Yin's body. She fell to the ground in pain, her body trembling. Si Kongyao's attack from behind also failed to stop Nu Shi, and she was sent flying by her palm, vomiting blood. Let them go. Lin Muyu was covered in injuries, stood up with the help of the long sword, and walked towards Nu Shi shakily. The devil flames on the ground burned him, but he still walked forward, and said in a low voice, Nu Shi, you used to be so kind, why did you take this step? Let them go, I beg you, I beg you. Nu Shi's pair of arrogant beautiful eyes had a trace of disdain. Why should I let them go just because you begged me? Where were you when Duo La led the Divine Feather Battalion to kill my demonic spirit race? Where were you when Sun Shi set fire to the wild boar forest and killed 100,000 of my demonic spirit race? You, the Qin Emperor, only cared about fighting your own battles. Did you think of our demonic spirit race? I really don't know. Lin Muyu gritted her teeth. I really don't know about these. It's fine if you don't know, but it's too late to say anything. Nu Shi's eyes were filled with disdain, and she laughed. You can continue to pretend to be a good person, but I can no longer go back. I've become a devil, and it's impossible for me to go back. Huh? Why can't you go back? You can go back after you put down the butcher's knife. Can you? Nu Shi had a pitiful look, and she laughed. Lin Muyu, you were once one of the divine kings of the Eastern Heaven Realm. Do you know what the devil path is? What do you think darkness is like? Lin Muyu, Nu Shi sneered and said, let me tell you what it means to fall into the devil path. That is, everything I cherish has been shattered. More than half of my treasured clansmen have died, and I am clean. The body that I cherished for many years has been made with those unknown demons in the devil path. In order to obtain power, I can give up everything, and even my body is no longer clean. How do you think I should go back? Lin Muyu still walked forward step by step and said, I'm sorry, but this is my fault. Please let go of Qin Yin and Tang Xiaoxi. They are not in the wrong. No, they are in the wrong. Nu Shi said indifferently, they are by your side, and this is their fault. On the ground, Tang Xiaoxi suddenly let out a whimper, and her aura had already become very weak. Qin Yin was not much better. Her entire body was burned red by the devil flames, and her protective aura was about to collapse. Lin Muyu panted heavily, and came in front of Nu Shi. She looked at her, and suddenly raised the Xianyuan sword, and said indifferently, let them go. Why, do you want to kill me? Nu Shi laughed. The Xianyuan sword quickly fell. Clang! Nu Shi's palm grabbed the Xianyuan sword like an iron pincer, and grabbed it with a turn of her hand. She sneered, Lin Muyu, I originally thought that there was friendship between us, but now it seems, my life is like grass in front of you, and you can take my life at any time, right? What right do you have for me to let you go? She raised her sword, and said with a smile, the legendary Lin Muyu died under your own Xianyuan sword. How ironic is this? The power in Lin Muyu's body was almost exhausted, and she stood there blankly and closed her eyes. Then at least, I can die in front of them. I'll fulfill your wish. Nu Shi smiled coldly. At this moment, a soft but firm voice came from the side. You are not allowed to kill him. I will not allow you to kill him. The one who spoke was Qin Yin. Buzz, buzz, buzz. Under her feet, rays of golden light revolved, and each ray of light was formed by very small golden characters. Those were ancient characters. The sky thundered, and this aura was very familiar. Another Mahayana heavenly Tao righteous god? Nu Shi looked at Qin Yin indifferently, and said with a smile, then I'll kill you first. The Xianyuan sword fell down with the devil flames. However, Qin Yin opened her palm, and a bright golden light burst forth. A newborn dragon crystal blocked the Xianyuan sword slash, and its power was actually not inferior to Nu Shi's. The wind and clouds in the sky surged, and the golden light continuously gathered into the shape of the heavenly sound scroll. Another new righteous god was about to appear, and this time, it was Qin Yin. Without waiting for Nu Shi to react, Qin Yin suddenly rushed forward, and her right fist was filled with the power of the dragon crystal, and she heavily punched Nu Shi's lower abdomen. With a groan, Nu Shi couldn't even hold the Xianyuan sword anymore, and her body retreated tens of meters, causing the space to distort. Her face was pale, and she vomited a mouthful of blood. She looked up at Qin Yin and said indifferently, "I pray, Ancestor Emperor Zien, please use the god-destroying pagoda to kill this new god." However, there was only the heavenly sound scroll in the sky, and there was no longer the light of the god-destroying pagoda. Obviously, every time the god-destroying pagoda was activated, it would consume the demon realm's energy. It needed time to store energy, and it couldn't be released indefinitely. Boom, boom, boom. Bolts of golden lightning descended from the sky, and a strong wind blew. The original form of Goddess Nuwa appeared in the sky, and she looked at Qin Yin with a gentle expression and said, "Qin Yin, you are kind, talented, and have obtained the recognition of the heavenly sound scroll. Now, I will bestow upon you the second-grade superior deity Dharma body and the title of Graceful Goddess. You will be in charge of the order of the three realms, and I will bestow upon you the power of order. I hope that you will do your best to protect the Mahayana heavenly Tao for all living beings in the world." Qin Yin had become a god. Looking at the original form of Goddess Nuwa in the sky, Qin Yin bit her red lips and wanted to cry, but no tears came out. She turned around, knelt on the ground, and helped Tang Xiaoxi up. "Xiaoxi, are you okay, Xiaoxi?" Tang Xiaoxi heaved a sigh of relief. Although she was still unconscious, her life was not in danger. The demon Empress Nu Shi's body slowly flew up, and she stopped in midair. She looked at Lin Muyu from afar, and said, "It feels good to have two goddesses protecting you, right?" Lin Muyu frowned, and said, "You didn't have to walk the path of diabolism." "Is that so?" Nu Shi chuckled. "Do you think I had a choice?" At the side, Qin Yin clenched her teeth, and wall-shaped divine power, which was unique to the graceful goddess, surrounded her. She said word by word, "You fell into the path of diabolism because of hatred, and you harmed others because of grievances. You clearly had a choice, but you chose the most vicious path. Everything is just an excuse for your cowardice, and you blame others for your evil deeds. This is just your selfish reason." As she spoke, Qin Yin opened her hand, and the East Flower Sword was instantly sucked back into her hand. The cyclone danced, and her robe fluttered in the wind. She said in a low voice, "Brother Yu, take good care of Xiaoxi, I'll go get rid of her." "No, Xiaoyin," Lin Mu shook her head and said, "Forget it, don't kill her. I owe her." In the air, Nu Shi sneered, "Don't think that I will be grateful to you like this. Lin Mu, just you wait for my revenge." In the blink of an eye, Nu Shi whizzed away. "Why don't you let me kill her?" Qin Yin was puzzled, and said, "In the future, she is destined to become our great enemy. If I kill her here, I will regret it for the rest of my life." Lin Muyu looked at the charred ground silently and said, "I will bring her back the way she got lost. If I can't, I will kill her myself." Actually, Si Kongyao walked over while holding her abdomen and said, "Actually, she had many opportunities to kill Brother Yu just now, but she didn't." Chapter 1196. After Nu Shi was defeated, she left the Forest of No Return and was never heard from again. It was said that she went to the Celestial Empire because Qin Yu had promised that as long as Nu Shi was willing to surrender to the Celestial Empire, he would let bygones be bygones. Moreover, the Celestial Empire had the two demon gods, Ku Yu and Song Liangqing, and they were given important tasks. This was enough to prove that Qin Yu had already compromised with the demon realm. As long as he could obtain power and maintain the status of the Celestial Empire, there was nothing Qin Yu couldn't do. There were still 150,000 demon tribes left in the Forest of No Return. More than a third of them had followed Nu Shi to the Heavenly Jew Empire overnight. The rest of them were all in a mess. It wasn't until dawn that Lin Muyu sorted out the situation. After Nu Shi left, the demon spirit tribe was ruled by two demon kings. One of them, Demon King Swerin, was crippled by Lin Muyu, and the other was Demon King Skyfeather. After dawn, he announced that he would lead his tribe to surrender to the Qin Empire and be loyal to Qin Yin and Lin Muyu. During the morning meeting, only 20 people arrived at the sacred altar out of the 100 demon venerables. Due to Nu Shi's departure, the hearts of the demon spirit tribe were scattered. It was difficult for them to unite like in the past. Many demon spirits even decided to leave alone and transform into humans. They would coexist peacefully with humans like they did many years ago, or they would use humans as food and resume their old life of hunting. After the morning meeting ended, only Lin Muyu and the other 3 were left in the empty sacred altar hall. Lin Muyu sat by the huge window of the hall and looked at the jungle in the distance. Qin Yin, who was beside him, carefully bandaged the wound on his arm. Tang Xiaoxi took breakfast from a demon spirit guard. It was a pot of porridge. The demon spirit tribe had always eaten meat. This was the only food that could be provided for them. Time to eat. Tang Xiaoxi was distributing the porridge. Lin Muyu leisurely said, "No, I'm afraid we can't just leave the 100,000 demon spirits behind and leave. Although we just let the Sky Feather Demon King temporarily take over the position of Demon Emperor, Sky Feather is still a demon spirit. Once we leave, the Sky Feather Demon King will definitely lead the demon spirits to rebel against the Empire. At that time, the 100,000 demon spirits will become a thorn in our flesh." Tang Xiaoxi said, "I'll stay. After all, after I transform into Nine-Tailed, I'm also a demon spirit in people's eyes. Maybe it'll be easier for me to talk to these demon spirits." The demon spirits are not the demons of the Western region. They are not as devout as the demons. Lin Muyu was a little worried. It's too dangerous for Xiaoxi to stay here alone. I'll stay as well. Xiao Yin and Yao will return to Red Rock City to oversee the situation. With the 2 of you there, the Celestial Empire won't dare to make any rash moves. Qin Yin nodded. "Okay, I got it." Lin Muyu continued to sit there in a daze. "Mu, what are you worried about?" Tang Xiaoxi asked softly. "The god-destroying pagoda." Lin Muyu spat out 3 words and frowned. "That beam of light is the god-destroying pagoda. The Demon Emperor has already told me about it. In addition, that beam of light is emitted from the demon realm. In other words, the god-destroying pagoda can launch an attack on our plane from the demon realm. If the person holding the god-destroying pagoda enters the celestial pole continent, I'm afraid righteous gods like Xiaoxi and Xiao Yin will become hunting targets." "But what can we do?" Qin Yin said helplessly, "The demon realm is too strong now. I can feel their restlessness. The only thing the righteous gods can do is to endure and wait. Only when more righteous gods appear will they be able to contend against the demon realm." Lin Muyu clenched her fists. "The more I want to see through the heavenly Tao of Mahayana, the more I can't see through it. I don't know what I'm missing. Actually, what I want to do the most now is to immediately ascend and head to the celestial realm to stop the demon realm's attack." "Who doesn't want to?" Qin Yin smiled lightly, "But what we need to do now is to settle the demon spirit race, then fight the Celestial Empire and the Kingdom of Shang. After we unify this plane, we can head to the celestial realm without any worries." "Okay, when do you leave?" "In the afternoon." "Okay, be careful on the road." "Don't worry, I'm a righteous god now, haha, that's true." Unlike the flourishing celestial pole mainland, the various spiritual mountains in the Western Divine Realm had long fallen into a deathly stillness due to the loss of the support of divine power. Not even a blade of grass grew, and the prosperous scenes of the past had become a memory. The trial field, the place where Qin Yin had once walked out of. Rustle. The sound of footsteps landed on the withered grass. Shi Yen held the Chiwe sword in her hand as she walked step by step into the place she was once familiar with. However, the trial field was a mess now. Most of the buildings had been destroyed by Mara's army, and a large number of weapons and valuables had been plundered by the Demon Realm's army. The trial field was now just a huge empty shell. In the distance, a bewitching purple light shone from the radiant Saint Hall where ruler Claude used to live. That was the light of the Demon Realm's army. The radiant Saint Hall had already fallen into the hands of the Demon Realm's army. However, the radiant Saint Hall was at least 5 kilometers away from the trial field. As long as she did not make too much noise, she would not be discovered. Mara's senses were not particularly sensitive to power. As long as Xianxia suppressed her aura and power, she would be able to survive under their noses. Walking through the rubble, Xianxia's beautiful eyes were filled with worry and anxiety. What she needed the most right now was the Radiant Origin Stone. The Radiant Origin Stone contained an extremely powerful source of power, and it was one of the necessary items to revive Eva. However, the Radiant Origin Stone was too precious. Even ruler Claude only had a handful of Radiant Origin Stones. However, Xianxia knew that there was someone who still had a Radiant Origin Stone. It was the Vice Dean of the trial field, Li Fei. She had once been rewarded for her contributions in selecting talents. Claude had chosen a Radiant Origin Stone from the Immortal Realm's treasury and given it to Li Fei. If Xianxia remembered correctly, Li Fei had not used the Radiant Origin Stone. Instead, she had kept it. Now that the Immortal Realm was in ruins, and Li Fei had either been killed or had left early, Xianxia's only hope was that the Radiant Origin Stone was still there. It was still in Li Fei's residence, the Vice Dean's office, or where she lived. In the distance, the training field of the trial field had already been destroyed. Iron dummies had been chopped down and burnt black. The trees on both sides of the road had also been uprooted. The demon realm was born with a strong desire to destroy. They seemed to be unable to see anything that could survive, even trees. Whoosh, stepping on the rubble, Xianxia took a big stride and landed in the middle of the ruins. The Vice Dean's office had been burned down. The flowers and plants in the small courtyard had been smashed, the courtyard wall had been pushed down into a piece of rubble, and Li Fei's table had been burned to ashes. When Xianxia walked in, she found that the bathtub in the room had also been smashed. Li Fei was a woman who loved to look beautiful. Taking a bath every day was a compulsory lesson. Looking at the broken bathtub, Xianxia could not help but smile bitterly. The past was like a dream that could not be traced back. If she had not left back then, perhaps it would not have been like this. But on second thought, even if she did not leave, could she resist the invasion of the demon realm? Probably not. She might not even be able to save her own life. The demon realm would not let go of a blazing angel. She bent down and rummaged through the rubble, but after searching for a long time, her hands were covered in mud, but she found nothing. Eva's voice came from the broken sword. "Sister, I'm afraid that Li Fei has already taken the Radiant Origin Stone away. The Radiant Origin Stone is so precious, how could she leave it here?" Perhaps Li Fei did not have time to leave? Xianxia was a little apprehensive and hesitant. She wanted to resurrect Eva, so she hoped that Li Fei had died in battle and left the Radiant Origin Stone behind. But she did not want Li Fei to die. After all, Li Fei was a familiar friend in the God realm. "Sister, can you sense the energy fluctuations of the Radiant Origin Stone?" Eva asked. "No." Xianxia shook her head and said, "Perhaps the power of the Radiant Origin Stone was concealed by the black sandalwood box." "That's not possible. I can only hope so." "You've worked hard, sister. I'm sorry." Eva said apologetically, "I was too incompetent back then, so I was swallowed by the demonic flames. Otherwise, you would not have to run around like this." "Don't say silly things." Xianxia smiled faintly. "You did not disappoint me. On the contrary, when the seal of the 6 realms was broken, you did not escape, but died for your cause. This is my good Eva. Only this kind of nature is worthy of being a blazing angel of the Western Divine Realm, is it not?" Thank you, sister." Eva was a little happy and said, "But the Lord Ruler seems to have escaped." "Don't mention him." Xianxia said a little angrily. Among the 4 great god realms, the 7 luminaries Demon Emperor defended the 8 Wastelands realm with his life, the Northern Divine King Dong Ming defended Black Rock City with his life, the Southern Divine Realm did not retreat at all, and most of the gods were slaughtered but still resisted Mara's army. Only our Western Divine Realm was defeated in one battle. We clearly had the responsibility of guarding the entrance to the Devil Realm, but we watched as the Devil Realm invaded. This is all because of Claude's cowardice. He only knows how to bare his fangs and brandish his claws against the weak, but when he meets a true expert, he is as timid as a quail. "A quail?" Eva giggled and said, This analogy is very interesting, but, sister, to be honest, if I can really be resurrected and receive the recognition of the Mahayana heavenly Tao, I will no longer be loyal to any divine king. I will only be loyal to my own heart. Yes, I will be the same. I will only be loyal to my own heart. That is what a true God should do. At this moment, a sharp cry suddenly came from the sky. It was the two-winged Mara. Shi Yan reacted extremely quickly. She quickly hugged the broken sword and leaped into a corner of Li Fei's room. She used the broken stone as a cover to conceal herself, and at the same time, lowered her aura to the minimum. She could not be discovered. Otherwise, even if she killed this Mara, it would probably attract the army of Mara from the Radiant Saint Hall. By then, it would be troublesome if thousands of Mara came. What was even more troublesome was if the Devil Realm Ziyen was alarmed. That would be the real problem. Against the god-slaying tower that was powerful enough to destroy even gods, Shi Yan did not have absolute confidence that she could escape alive. Hee, a black figure shot through the air. The two-winged Mara did not discover Shi Yan's traces, nor did he discover anything unusual in the trial grounds. What an idiot! Chapter 1197. At dawn, Shi Yan almost searched the entire training field, but she still could not find the light primordial stone. Perhaps the light primordial stone was not in the training field. It was almost dawn, and it was easier to be discovered by the two-winged Mara during the day. Moreover, the entire Western Divine Realm was under the control of the Demon Realm. Every 15 minutes or so, there would be a two-winged Mara flying over. The security was tight, and there was not much time left for Shi Yan. Sister. In the broken sword, Eva reminded, it's time to find a place to rest. Why don't we go underground? Underground? Have you forgotten? There's an underground training field in the training school. Many giant beasts were raised there as training targets. Xin graduated from there. Oh, how could I forget? Shi Yan was ecstatic. Yes, there's also the underground training field. Maybe the light primordial stone is hidden there. Shi Yan flew and arrived below the seraph statue in the training field in the blink of an eye. The statue was about 5 meters tall. Shi Yan's statue was used to show the power of the Western Divine Realm, but now the statue had been smashed into a pile of rubble by Mara. However, the base was still there. Mara and the others were all idiots. They did not know that the base was where the secret was. It was also one of the entrances to the underground training field. Creak. Shi Yan pushed a protruding stone on the base. After moving it 2 squares on the left and right, the stone below slowly opened, revealing a stone path leading straight to the bottom. Great! She smiled cheerfully and walked in with Doll's original spirit. Then, she closed the entrance and raised the Chi-We sword high up. Light shone in all directions and illuminated the surroundings. The layout of the entire underground training field was not damaged at all. The army of the Devil World did not seem to notice the mystery here. Eva said, I remember, there's a storage room next to the beast fighting room. It's like a temporary shelter. It was originally proposed by Li Fei. It's also a small underground lair for Li Fei. Sister, you can go to the storage room to take a look. Shi Yan walked down the stone steps, and after confirming that there was no one around, she turned around and went to the storeroom. Whoa, he pushed open the door of the storage room. It had been a long time since anyone had come. The sound of the ventilation was like the howling of ghosts. There was even a huge spider web on the door, and dust kept falling. Shi Yan narrowed her eyes and used the Chi-We sword to pry open the spider webs. She smelled a rotten smell and saw that there was no food in the storage room. Instead, it was filled with all kinds of books, making it look like a library. As for these books, most of them were from the education section of the Trial Academy, such as The Origin of Power, The Theory of the Beginning of Light, and so on. They were all things that Li Fei loved. Hiding a whole set of books in this place showed that Li Fei had the foresight to do so. Even if the Western Divine Realm was destroyed, at least their civilization was still here. These books could be said to have preserved at least half of the civilization of the Western Divine Realm. If Li Fei dies in battle, it would be such a pity. Shi Yan murmured. She is a rare talent. Yes, she is also our mutual friend. I hope she has already escaped. Eva's figure flew out of the broken sword and stood beside Shi Yan. She said with a smile, Sister, do I look like a ghost now? Shi Yan burst into laughter. Don't mess around. You're affecting my search for the radiant Oregon. Eva stuck out her tongue and said with a smile, Why do I feel like I'm happier after dying than I was when I was alive? I feel like I'm free now. I am me and nothing else. I hope you can be like this forever, no longer bound by anything. Shi Yan smiled meaningfully and said, No matter what, when you come back to life, you can stay by my side. We'll go find Xin and Linmuyu. We'll live with them and be their super big light bulb. What do you think? Eva was startled and said, Linmuyu is the god king of the Eastern Heaven realm. Will he not tolerate my identity? Don't worry, Yu is not the kind of person who haggles over the smallest details. He is very casual. How casual? He casually married two great beauties of the righteous gods. Xin and Tang Xiaoxi have both ascended to the righteous gods. You also felt it, right? Yes. We can't fall behind. Yes, help me find the radiant Oregon, but I don't have a physical body, so I can't help you. In the blink of an eye, half a day had passed. Li Fei's office had been turned upside down. Other than some small weapons and underwear that she had collected, there was nothing else. After a short rest, it was already night. When night came, Xian planned to continue searching on the ground. However, it was clear that this night was not peaceful. Just as Xian was rummaging on the ground, a group of Mara flew over her head. Jejia. They circled around, causing Xian, who was hiding under a pile of dead wood, to feel very nervous. A few minutes later, Mara and the others actually landed. One by one, they landed on the broken wall like vultures and looked around with sharp eyes. One of the Mara snorted and said, This place seems to be different from a few days ago? What's different? Another Mara with red chest hair asked. Feels like these stones were not originally in this position. That Mara stood in the rubble and said, Look, there are footprints here. There are traces of someone searching. Maybe those lazy Mara on the ground are looking for food or humans here. Those lazy fellows. Suddenly, the body of the red chest hair Mara trembled, and he said, No, I think I smell the scent of a living person. That's right, the scent of a living person is over there. Quickly fly over and take a look. We can eat humans tonight. The group of two-winged devils flew away like a flock of startled crows. Under the dead wood, Xian stood up slowly and frowned slightly. The scent of a living person? What do you mean? Could it be that they can smell my scent? No. Eva said, Sister, you still have the Godhead, so you won't emit the scent of a living person. There must be someone else here. We are not the only ones in this trial. Should we follow them secretly and take a look? Shi Yan's movement technique was outstanding, and she disappeared into the darkness in the blink of an eye. In the distance, the two-winged Mara shrieked incessantly, and they surrounded a person like a swarm of flies. They didn't seem to want to kill, but to brandish their weapons to force the person to lose the courage to resist. Under the messy stabs, the woman's clothes were torn apart, and her fair and clean body was revealed. Her figure was shockingly good. Furthermore, Xian could hear whimpers and screams. The screams sounded familiar. Eva's primordial spirit could see more clearly, and she said with a trembling voice, Sister, that woman seems to be Li Fei. She really didn't leave. She's still in the trial. That's right, it was Li Fei. Her long hair was very messy, and the bun at the back of her head was messed up. She no longer had the style of an office lady. Her dress had almost been stripped by the two-winged Mara, and there were streaks of blood on her body. Mara ate humans, and now that Li Fei had degenerated into a mortal, she would soon become Mara's meal. What should we do? Eva was anxious. Sister, attack now, or else Li Fei will be killed by Mara. Shi Yan shook her head, and her eyes shone with wisdom. No, if I go to kill Mara directly, I'll be exposed. It's better to think of a way to lure them away. How? I have my ways. As she spoke, Xian suddenly clenched her fist. Suddenly, the surrounding aura and power began to change. The 6 wings behind her stretched out faintly, and a wave of divine power passed through the wall and blasted straight into the mountain outside. The huge force turned into a pillar of light that shot into the sky, and the entire trial shook. If she wasn't very familiar with this move, she probably wouldn't be able to use such a powerful force in another place. Kiki, the 2-winged Mara, were shocked, and they didn't care about the delicious meal that was Li Fei anymore. They all flew up and charged straight into the distance. Mara and the others were all idiots. In the blink of an eye, they all flew away, and not a single one was left to stand guard. Xian turned into a cold light and flew over. She gently grabbed Li Fei in her arms, and turned to charge into the entrance of the underground secret room. The trembling Li Fei originally thought that she couldn't escape death. She only dared to raise her head when she was held under Xian's armpit. She saw a familiar face and she couldn't help but cry, "Lady Xian? Lady Xian, is that you? Is it really you?" "It's me. Long time no see, Li Fei. Let's hide in the secret room first." "Okay." In the secret room, Li Fei was still in a state of shock. She sat in her office and quickly combed her hair. She pulled out a fountain pen from the table and wrapped it around her hair into a beautiful bun. She asked, "Is my hair messed up?" "It's not messed up at all." Eva's image flew out. "Lady Eva?" Li Fei was shocked. "It's me, but I'm a ghost now." Eva laughed. This didn't scare Li Fei. Who was Li Fei? Ghosts and such were not strange to her. Xian sat down on her desk and crossed her long legs. She asked, "Li Fei, what's going on? Claude has already left, so why haven't you left?" "Yes, the ruler has already left." Li Fei was a little disappointed. "But I and over 100 other angels thought that we shouldn't abandon this place, so we stayed to defend against the enemy. However, we didn't expect the demon realm to be so strong. In just a few months, we were almost all killed. Divine punishment took away our divine power, so we couldn't leave even if we wanted to. 7 days ago, the last battle angel was also eaten by Mara. I could only hide in the cave outside the trial and only come out at night to look for food. No wonder you were caught." Xian frowned. "Are you very hungry?" "Yes." "Then why didn't you return to this secret room? There's no food in the secret room." "Look at this." Xian dragged out a box from under her desk. It was full of compressed biscuits. "Wow," Li Fei almost cried tears of joy. "I almost forgot that I used to hoard these. Eat quickly." "Yes." Li Fei ate quickly, while Xian handed her a water bottle. "Oh, there's one more important thing." "Oh, what is it? Please tell me, my lord." "Don't you still have a radiant primordial stone? Where is it?" Li Fei was shocked. "My lord, why are you looking for the radiant primordial stone?" "To revive Eva. But the radiant primordial stone was stolen a month ago. It's now in the radiant temple. Those Mara are very afraid of the power of the radiant primordial stone, so they sealed it." "It was taken away." Xian narrowed her eyes. "My lord Xian, do you have a plan?" Li Fei asked. "Yes, although it's a little impractical." "Tell me first, my lord." "Take back the radiant primordial stone, revive Eva, and then rebuild the Western Divine Realm with the power of the 3 of us. We'll banish the Demon Realm army." "But that does sound a little impractical. Are you willing to join us?" "Of course I'm willing to do such a challenging thing." "Good." She didn't know why, but after seeing Li Fei, Xian's confidence had doubled. Chapter 1198. Li Fei tidied up her hair and recovered some of the charm of the vice-headmaster. She said, "There are around 5,000 Mara occupying the Radiant Saint Hall. They're basically all 2-winged Mara and poisonous Mara. They're led by a Holy King-level demon god called Shalawan." "Holy King?" Xian frowned. Li Fei nodded and asked, "Sir Xian, with your current strength, if you meet this Sally, do you have the confidence to defeat her?" "If it's just one Holy King, then there's no problem." But if there's over 5,000 Mara, then it'll be a little troublesome. These Mara are like flies that can't be killed completely. They're everywhere and extremely annoying. Yeah, so if we want to take back the Radiant, or we need to draw away Mara's army. However, we don't have enough people. If I draw them away, I'll definitely die. If you draw them away, I'm afraid I won't be able to take back the ore from Shallowan. As she said that, Li Fei crossed her long legs. Her face was filled with melancholy, as if she wanted to smoke a cigar to relieve her worries. Shi Yan remained silent. She said, "Do we need to find some more helpers?" Li Fei said, "Lady Shi Yan, do you still remember Terralyn and Lake?" "Of course." "Where are they?" Before the heavenly wrath descended, they had already returned to the Western Divine Realm. However, they were punished by the ruler, so they were imprisoned in the Western Divine Realm's Redemption Ridge prison. After so much time has passed, I think they're probably done for. The Redemption Ridge has either been invaded by Mara, or they've starved to death due to a lack of food. The Redemption Ridge isn't far from here. Shall we go take a look now? In the night, the door to the secret room opened gently. Shi Yan and Li Fei turned into a streak of light and disappeared into the pitch-black night. The Redemption Ridge was barren. All the houses here had been burned down by Mara's group. As for the prison, it was built inside the mountain and was only guarded by a small sealed iron gate. On the iron door, the lock that symbolized power and imprisonment glowed faintly and was locked on the door in perfect condition. Shi Yan was stunned. The prison was not discovered, nor was it opened. Oh no, are they still inside? Shi Yan slashed open the seal lock with one palm and flew into the dungeon. It was dark and damp everywhere, and there were only a few small doors on both sides of the stone path. The dungeon was a small space carved out of the mountain, and the surrounding space laws were sealed, so there was no way to break through the void to escape. Staying here would only lead to death. "Terralyn! Terralyn!" Shi Yan shouted a few times, but no one responded. She couldn't help but feel distressed. Had Terralyn really starved to death here? Li Fei suddenly stretched out her hand and pointed into the distance. "Sir, look, there seems to be light over there." A beam of dim light came from afar. Sure enough, there was still light in the dungeon. Shi Yan quickly walked in and saw that the door of a cell was opened. There were 4 people sitting against the wall inside. 2 of them were Terralyn and Lake. They were so hungry that they were almost skin and bones, and there was no light in their eyes. When they saw Shi Yan and Li Fei, Terralyn's eyes suddenly lit up. She said in disbelief, "Lady Shi Yan, Deputy Dean Li Fei, you're really not dead." That's great, that's great." Li Fei was overjoyed. Shi Yan could see that Terralyn and the others were at their limit, and they would definitely starve to death if they came a day or 2 later. She quickly took out some fine food from her dimensional bag and placed it in front of everyone with water. "Don't talk first, eat something to restore your strength," she said. Thank you, Lady Shi Yan." Terralyn and Lake thanked her together. After eating a little, Terralyn leaned softly against the cold wall and closed her eyes to rest. After nearly an hour, they recovered a lot of strength and opened their eyes. Terralyn said, "This place has been occupied by the demon realm. Lady Shi Yan, why are you back?" "Let's not talk about me first. Let me ask you what happened here." "Actually," Terralyn paused for a while before continuing, "as soon as we came back, we were imprisoned here by the order of the ruler. We don't know what happened outside. We can only hear the cries of the demon realm and the screams of the battle angels when they were killed. We all know that the Western Divine Realm has fallen. How did you last so long?" Shi Yan asked. Terralyn said, "We broke the door of the room, but because we lost our divine power, we couldn't open the door of the prison. Deputy Dean Li Fei also came once, but she couldn't open the door and left. These days, we can only rely on the little food left in the prison to survive. When we ran out of food, we dug the bracken underground and some hard-to-swallow crystal fragments." "You guys actually eat crystal?" Terralyn looked depressed. "There were originally 15 people in the prison, but then people kept dying. Until now, only the 4 of us are left." Shi Yan was a little surprised. Terralyn smiled bitterly. "Lady Shi Yan, Please don't misunderstand. The dead have been buried by us. We are the angels of the Western Divine Realm. We will never eat our companions. Xian said with relief, You've worked hard, Terralyn. You did the right thing. Now that I have returned to the Western Divine Realm, the first thing I want to do is to take back the primal light stone of the Temple of Light and resurrect Eva. Are you willing to help me? We are willing. Terralyn, Lake, and the others got up and bowed. At this moment, in the eyes of the people of the Western Divine Realm, Xian was the real ruler. As for Claude, he was just a villain who escaped and was not worthy of being called a ruler. But Lake held the bowl and frowned. But we have all lost our divine power. We are just mortals. How can we help Lady Xian take back the primal light stone? To be honest, it is difficult for me to even condense the king's combat flame. Terralyn smiled. You don't have to be reckless to take back the primal light stone, right? Xian asked in surprise. You have a way? I know a very important piece of news. Well, tell me. Terralyn stood up and said, The person guarding the Redemption Ridge prison was originally the Radiant Angel Mark. Before Mark left, he revealed a piece of news to me. Claude escaped in a hurry and left the artifact Lost Paradise in his room. As long as we can enter Claude's room and find the Lost Paradise, we can use the Lost Paradise to create an illusion and lure away the demon army of the Light Temple. We can take back the Primal Light Stone without bloodshed. What do you think, Lady Xian? The Lost Paradise is very powerful. If we can really find it, it is indeed possible. However, if we have the ability to enter Claude's room and steal the Lost Paradise, it is much easier to steal the Primal Light Stone. Li Fei giggled. That may not be true. Claude's room is not heavily guarded, and there is no Mara guarding it at all. On the other hand, the Primal Light Stone is guarded by 3 layers inside and 3 layers outside. It is very difficult to get it. I think Terralyn's suggestion is very feasible. Then let's act according to this plan. I will steal the Lost Paradise tonight. Xian said in a low voice. But Terralyn blinked her eyes. After all, that is an area occupied by the demon world. Once Lady Xian is discovered, it may be very troublesome. It's okay, I have this. Xian gently opened her left hand, and suddenly a mask with a faint luster appeared in her hand. She said, This thing is called the Mask of Nothingness. It can disguise myself so that Mara cannot detect me. Even if I am close, it is impossible for them to discover that I am a different species. This will do. Terralyn was stunned. Lady Xian, have you really met someone from the demon world? More than just meeting. Xian sighed. This Mask of Nothingness was given to me by Ziyen. Ziyen, that despicable and shameless guy, used me to complete his power seizure in the demon world. Now, Ziyen is the lord of the demon world. Terralyn said helplessly, Then please be careful, lady. We will wait for you here? All right. Xian took a deep breath and said, My power alone is too weak. Once I can resurrect Eva, the power of 2 seraphim will be enough to take back the Radiant Temple. At that time, we will do everything we can to restore your power. Late at night, in the side hall of the Radiant Temple. As a ruler, Claude had always been cautious. His residence was not in the main hall of the Radiant Temple, but in a slightly remote side hall. At this time, it was already overgrown with weeds, snakes, and rats. It was very barren. Russell, with light footsteps, Xian, wrapped in a demon cloak, slowly walked through the corridor. Her face was covered by the Mask of Nothingness, which conjured the face of Mara. As she walked, there was suddenly a sharp whistle from the eaves to the side. It was a patrolling 2-winged Mara. He landed on the eaves and roared at Xian, Brat, who are you? Why have you appeared here? Don't you know that this place has been listed as a forbidden zone by Lady Charlevon? Xian raised his head and looked at the 2-winged Mara. His hand gently moved towards the hilt of his sword. Unexpectedly, the 2-winged Mara's expression immediately changed. He smiled awkwardly. All right. I was just saying casually. Brother, do whatever you want to do. I'll pretend like I didn't see anything. Don't draw your sword just because you don't like it. Shi Yan did not speak and continued to walk forward. The two-winged Mara also tactfully flew away. It seemed that it was the same in the realm of devils. Causing less trouble and doing more things was their code of conduct. It was very similar to humans. With a squeak, she pushed open the door of Claude's room that had been abandoned for a long time. It was clear that the place had been searched. The bookshelves and weapon racks had been pushed down. Shi Yan squinted her eyes. She used her divine power to search a little and sensed the location of the lost paradise. She spread her 5 fingers and covered the wall, and a faint suction force generated from her palms slid out with a brick. The brick was hollow, and in the center was a fist-sized crystal. There were endless changes inside, and it was the lost paradise. "You're really here." Shi Yan held the lost paradise and put it into her space bag. She turned and quietly left the room, as if she had never been there. Chapter 1199. In the prison, the lost paradise was placed flat on the table. Terralyn Lake and the others stared at it with their eyes wide open. This small stone was the lost paradise, known as one of the most precious artifacts in the Western divine realm. It was said that those who were heartbroken and desperate could obtain everything they wanted in the lost paradise, such as finding their loved ones and resurrecting the dead. In fact, the real use of the lost paradise was to create an illusion that made people unable to resist. "What a beautiful stone!" Terralyn sighed. This was the first time she had seen the legendary artifact so closely. It's a pity that Claude couldn't make good use of it. Eva's image appeared and said, "If he could make good use of it, I'm afraid the Western divine realm wouldn't have been instantly defeated and occupied by the demon realm." "What's the specific plan?" Li Fei asked. "The plan is," Shi Yan smiled slightly. "It's actually very simple. I'll go to the Radiant Temple during the day and publicly kill some Mara to attract all their troops over. Then I'll use the Lost Paradise to lure them into an illusion and not be able to come out. After that, I'll enter the Radiant Temple, find the Radiant Primordial Stone, resurrect Eva, and fight them head-on." "This plan is really thorough," Li Fei complained. Shi Yan pursed her red lips. "That's right. This is the most thorough plan I can think of." The next day, the entire plan was carried out by Shi Yan alone. Otherwise, anyone else might become a burden. The morning sun shone gently on the sky above the Radiant Temple. Mara was flapping his wings, and the ground was filled with Stinger Mara who was lying on his back and basking in the sun. These stingers had a row of sharp thorns on their backs, and they were poisonous. In the Battle of Zhangjiabao, most of the soldiers who died in the Longdan army camp were actually poisoned to death. Whoosh! The originally quiet sky was suddenly disturbed by a sword chi. It was a sword chi that came from the dimensional space. With one strike, 3 two-winged Mara were immediately dismembered. Then, a beautiful figure appeared in the sky with 6 wings spread out behind her. The Chiwe sword in her hand was shining brightly. It was Shi Yan. "The Seraphim is here. The blazing angel was here. Sound the alarm." Winged Mara shouted. Shi Yan wasn't in a hurry to make a move. She just looked at Mara calmly. Inside the divine hall, countless Mara flew out, densely packed together. Shi Yan couldn't count them all, but no matter how she looked at it, there were almost 5,000 of them. She smirked. "Idiots, come at me." Dozens of two-winged Mara pounced on her. Shi Yan blocked them with her blade. She slashed left and right as if there was no one there. However, her body kept retreating, which proved that she was losing. The Mara went crazy because a woman's voice came from behind. "The one who kills Shi Yan will be granted the title of Holy King." This sentence was enough to make all the Mara go crazy. One by one, they pounced on Shi Yan. However, they didn't realize that there was a barrier between them and Shi Yan. Ripples spread out, and they seemed to have pounced into a mirror. On the opposite side of the mirror, the two-winged Mara and poison Stinger Mara waved their claws wildly. However, they were only fighting a wisp of air. There was nothing at all. Lost paradise. It was too easy to play with these Mara in the palm of his hand. Inside the light temple, accompanied by the rustling of footsteps, Shi Yan's real body walked into the familiar temple. She had seen Claude countless times here, and had also given orders to the tribes of the Western Divine Realm countless times here. However, the glory was gone now, and there was no news of Claude. The Western Divine Realm had fallen. There was no leader, and she had to shoulder the heavy responsibility of reviving it. "You've finally come." A voice came from the side temple. After going around the huge stone pillar, a beautiful and enchanting woman appeared. It was Sherrywen, the holy king who held a sword surging with flames. She said with slight disdain, "I heard that you were once the strongest seraph in the Western Divine Realm. Now, after heavenly punishment, you actually managed to retain your divine power. It's not easy to cultivate, but you've come here to die." "Do you know why I've come?" Shi Yen asked with a smile. "I don't know, and I don't want to know. You're already a dead person." The corner of Sherrywen's mouth rose, and a cruel smile appeared. Shi Yen looked into the distance with a profound gaze. In the hall far away, there were two huge metal chests on both sides of the throne, and the power of the radiant ore came from them. That's right, it was the power of the radiant ore, and there was more than one radiant oregon. There were at least 5 radiant ore in those chests. It turned out that Claude's treasure had been found. Sherrywen took the initiative to attack. She raised her sharp sword, and a demonic flame rose from the ground. After all, she was the holy king, and her attack was fast and fierce. However, her opponent was even stronger, the former seraph. Shi Yan's power had been reduced by about 20% due to heavenly punishment, but the remaining 80% was enough to deal with the holy king. The Chiwe sword swept horizontally, forcibly blocking the invasion of the demonic flame. Shi Yen pounced in the air, and the light from her 6 wings exploded. Her sword fell toward Sherrywen's head with the weight of a mountain. Sherrywen clearly didn't expect Shi Yen to be so fast and so strong. When she raised her sword to block, she found that she couldn't block it at all. The long sword broke into 2 with a bang, and she was sent flying while vomiting blood. After all, Shi Yan's sword was the strongest attack of the 7 chops, God-slaying. It was already a miracle that Sherrywen didn't die after taking this attack. "You want to kill me?" Sherrywen, who had fallen into the corner of the wall, slowly stood up and wiped the corner of her mouth in a sorry state. Shi Yen didn't care about her at all. She walked forward and slashed open the 2 chests. Indeed, there were a total of 6 radiant oregon. She quickly put them all into her bag, and turned around with a faint smile. "Sherrywen, don't provoke me, or else I'll definitely kill you next time." Outside, the roars of Mara and the others could be heard. It seemed that the lost paradise had been broken by them. Shi Yen smiled sweetly, and with a twist of her slender waist, she slowly disappeared into the space, shattering the void and leaving. Sherrywen stood there in a daze. What a beautiful seraph! At night, in the secret room of the trial grounds, Terralyn, Lake, and the others were much more energetic after resting, but this place couldn't be considered safe. Mara's roars constantly came from the ground above the secret room, as well as the heavy muffled sound of demonic flames bombarding the ground. "They're searching for us," Terralyn said with certainty. "It's okay, they won't be able to find us." Shi Yen held the broken sword in one hand and the radiant ore in the other. Blood flowed from her left wrist, floating in the air like ribbons. Then, it converged with the light divine power flowing out of the radiant ore, gradually transforming into Eva's appearance. She wanted to use her bloodline as a guide to reconstruct Eva's body. "All men, turn around. Don't look back without my order," Shi Yen said in a low voice. Lake and the other 2 men immediately turned around. In a scene that they couldn't see, Eva's body became clearer and more complete. Her bright skin and beautiful face were the same as before. The moment her spirit entered her body, she couldn't help but let out a deep sigh of relief. A pair of beautiful eyes looked at Shi Yen. "Sister, I've been resurrected?" "Yes, you haven't completely resurrected yet. Don't talk and continue to absorb the power of the radiant oregon. How much power you can recover depends on you." Eva nodded heavily and closed her eyes. Her proud body slowly rotated in the air, surrounded by the bright light of the radiant oregon. Just as Xian said, how much divine power she could recover depended on the radiant Oregon. At the same time, Xian's body trembled slightly and her face was a little pale. Activating the reincarnation spell had consumed a lot of energy. The whole process lasted for about half a day. In the middle of the night, Xian took a deep breath and stopped the operation of power. Li Fei, give Eva a set of clothes. Yes. Li Fei took out a set of battle angel clothes and handed it to Eva. Eva shyly put on the clothes and said, "You can turn around now." The 3 male angels turned around. Lake took the lead and knelt down. Greetings, blazing angel Eva. No need for formalities. Get up. Li Fei said, Lady Xian, tell us about the next step of your plan. Xian pointed to the table at the side. There were still 5 intact radiant ore there. The next step of the plan is all here. Oh? What do you mean? Li Fei was stunned. Xian smiled. It's very simple. I discovered an important piece of information in the Lost Paradise. As long as the laws of nature are indestructible, the law of light is even more indestructible. Heavenly retribution only took away your divine power, but not your talent. Right now, your bodies are like a dried-up lake, and the radiant ore is the lake water. If I pour this lake water into your bodies, you will be able to become gods again. As for how much power you can recover, that will depend on your luck. Become gods again? Li Fei and Taralyn were stunned. Excitement and joy appeared on their faces. Yes, regain your status as gods. Xian said, but you are not gods of the heavenly path of Mahayana, so you can only be called old gods, not new gods. If you want to go further, you can only rely on comprehending the heavenly path of Mahayana to obtain power. From tomorrow onwards, Eva and I will help the 5 of you refine the radiant Oregon. We will strive to restore your divine power as soon as possible. Only then can we rebuild our Western divine realm. Yes, thank you, madam. Everyone bowed. The once brilliant Western divine realm had been destroyed, but a new hope was shining like a firefly in this small secret room. Demon Realm. In the Fekta Temple, Ancestor Emperor Yen held the god-destroying tower and looked at everything in the 6 realms. Behind him, Holy King Baifeng said respectfully, Ancestor Emperor, Xian has established a foothold in the ruins of the Western divine realm. Through the demon god's eye, I found out that she has resurrected Eva. Ancestor Emperor, please send an army to annihilate her. In addition, you can also use the god-destroying tower to kill her. Ancestor Emperor Yen shook his head. No, there is someone stronger that deserves to be killed with the god-destroying tower. Who? First-class god. Mad god. Ancestor Emperor wants to kill the 7 luminaries Demon Emperor? Yes, as long as the 7 luminaries Demon Emperor is not dead, I will not be at ease. Ziyan looked at the dim god-destroying tower and said, after the god-destroying tower absorbs demonic chi for another half a day, I will launch an attack. Let's see how long this mad god can be arrogant for. Yes, Ancestor Emperor is wise. Chapter 1200. Northern Heaven Realm, Black Rock City. The 7 luminaries Demon Emperor and Dong Ming were having their morning tea. Due to the arrival of the Demon Emperor, they had repelled Mara's attacks time and time again, greatly reversing the situation. This caused the Northern Heaven Realm to regain their fighting spirit and began to contend with the Demon World's army. The Heavenly Sound Scroll has already sealed 3 righteous gods, but it's still too slow. Dong Ming held the teacup in his hand and smiled playfully. If the 4 great god realms don't have 1,000 righteous gods, it's unlikely that they will be able to defeat the demon world. The 7 luminaries Demon Emperor smiled disapprovingly. Demon Emperor, what are you laughing at? The 7 luminaries Demon Emperor pointed at his nose and said, if all the righteous gods were as strong as me, just 10 of them would be enough to destroy the demon world. This, Dong Ming couldn't continue, but he also knew how powerful the 7 luminaries Demon Emperor was. He was indeed qualified to say such words after clashing head-on with tens of thousands of Mara. In the past few days, Dong Ming had already experienced the power of the 7 luminaries Demon Emperor. Even if he recovered to his peak strength, He was afraid that two of him together would not be a match for the 7 luminaries demon emperor. After a few seconds of silence, Dong Ming changed the topic. 2 of the 3 righteous gods are in the Shattered Cauldron realm. Speaking of which, it's quite unimaginable. There are so many planes in the 6 realms, but why are they all in the Shattered Cauldron realm? Because the righteousness there is the most abundant. The 7 Brilliance demon monarch said calmly, after the heavenly punishment, the gods have fallen into depravity. Every plane is busy fighting for the territories that originally belonged to the gods. Only the Shattered Cauldron realm is fighting for the greater good of the world. They are fighting for the sake of the people, to kill those who might fall into the demonic path. That's why I said righteousness is the strongest, but Lin Muyu, Qin Yin, and the others' opponents are your old subordinates, Dong Ming, Yangshang and Wu Chang. Dong Ming said awkwardly, indeed, the status of the Northern Heaven realm was determined by power in the past, causing the gods to lose the compassion and wisdom that gods should have. Now that Wu Chang and the others have fallen into the demonic path, I really have nothing to say. It's my fault, the shame of the Northern Heaven realm. The 7 Brilliance demon monarch raised his head and glanced at Qin Nan. I've been helping you for so many days. I hope you don't fall into the path of demons in the end. It would be a great loss for me. Dong Ming clenched her fist. What kind of person do you think I am? I would rather die than bow my head to an evil demon for power. That's good. The demon emperor continued to drink his tea, but at this moment, the sky above suddenly rumbled with thunder, and bolts of lightning appeared in the west. That was the direction of the Western Divine Realm, which was also the direction of the Chaos Realm and the Devil Realm. What kind of power is that? Dong Ming was shocked. He's here. The teacup in the 7 luminaries demon emperor's hand fell to the ground, but he had already arrived at the center of the hall. Mahayana Heavenly Tao Divine Power danced wildly around him as he said with a stern gaze, Dong Ming, lend me your little mirror. Someone has their eyes on me. Huh. Dong Ming was stunned. What are you waiting for? Do you want me to snatch it? All right. Dong Ming took out the Winter God treasure mirror and threw it into the air. The 7 luminaries demon emperor's speed was extremely fast, and he took a big stride forward to grab the treasure mirror. At the same time, the sky above Blackrock City exploded, and a beam of light descended from the sky. The light was formed by cold demonic flames, and the layers were stacked like a tower. The power was like an endless tide, and it completely locked onto the position of the 7 luminaries demon emperor. Damn it, they are really coming for me. The 7 luminaries demon monarch gathered his strength in his arms and raised the Winter God treasured mirror. He yelled, What's so great about hiding in the dark all day? Ziyan, you piece of trash, come at me. You have the demon subduing pagoda, I have the demon revealing mirror, take this. Swoosh. A beam of light soared into the sky, and endless frost followed. The Winter God treasure mirror was indeed the treasure of the Northern Heaven realm, and the millions of layers of frost continuously dissolved the destructive power of the God-destroying pagoda. At the same time, the beam of light was counterattacked by the God-destroying pagoda. In terms of strength, the 7 luminaries demon emperor was not inferior to Ziyan, and with the special effect of the Winter God treasure mirror, he was naturally not inferior. In the demon realm, Ancestor Emperor Ziyan's scream reverberated in the sky above the Fekta temple. He squinted his eyes, and blood flowed continuously from the corner of his eyes. His whole body trembled, and he said, What is this light? It pierced my eyes. 7 luminaries demon emperor, this bastard, he actually counterattacked me. I am so angry. It's the Winter God treasure mirror. Bai Feng Holy King said confidently, Ancestor Emperor, other than the Winter God treasure mirror, there is no other divine weapon that can attack the demon realm from the 6 realms. What the hell is the Winter God treasure mirror? Ziyan struggled to open his eyes, but his eyes were bloodshot. The Winter God treasure mirror is a holy artifact formed by the spiritual power of the Northern Heaven realm for millions of years. It can condense frost, and can also see through illusions. If it is used by a powerful enough god, it can even kill people from beyond the heavens, and control objects from the universe. It seems that the 7 Luminaries Demon Emperor has already obtained the Winter God treasure mirror and won't be so easy to deal with. At least, it is unlikely that the God-destroying pagoda alone can kill the 7 Luminaries Demon Emperor. Ziyan held the God-destroying pagoda tightly and said, "Even if I don't use the God-destroying pagoda, I still have the tens of millions of Mara army in the demon realm. I am not afraid that the 7 Luminaries Demon Emperor will not die. Pass down the order, prepare to launch an all-out attack, and destroy the 6 realms before the Mahayana heavenly gods awaken. The future world belongs to the demon realm." Blackrock City, the main hall. Demon Emperor, since the God-destroying pagoda has been repelled, shouldn't you return the Winter God treasure mirror to me? Dongming said. The 7 Luminaries Demon Emperor silently kept the mirror in his arms and said, "No, this Winter God treasure mirror can't be given to you for the time being. It's safer to keep it with me. I'm doing this for your own good." Dongming's eyes almost popped out. "Come on, how are you doing this for my own good?" The 7 Luminaries Demon Emperor took a deep breath and said, "Firstly, the demon realm Ziyan used the God-destroying pagoda to kill the righteous gods of the 6 realms, so with the Winter God treasure mirror by my side, I won't be afraid of Ziyan. Secondly, your Northern Heaven realm doesn't even have a 3rd-tier lower god, so Ziyan won't waste his energy to kill you mortals. Thirdly, your Northern Heaven realm's current strength can't protect the Winter God treasure mirror, so it's safer to keep it with me. You also understand the logic of an innocent man getting into trouble because of the Winter God treasure mirror. Ziyan will definitely become worse. If you insist on keeping the Winter God treasure mirror by your side, then I'll return it to you. But if Ziyan leads the Demon Realm's army to attack Blackrock City and snatch the Winter God treasure mirror, I'll definitely stand by and watch you get destroyed while eating melon seeds." Dongming felt a chill in his heart. Demon Emperor, you're taking advantage of others when they're in a precarious situation. This is not the action of a righteous god. What about you? You don't know how to help others, and you still have the nerve to call yourself the Northern God King? Dongming was speechless and said, "I can only lend the Winter God treasure mirror to you temporarily. Once the Northern Heaven realm needs it, you have to return it. The temporary borrowing period is 1 month. If you agree, I'll let you take it away. If you don't agree, I, Dongming, can't sell the treasures of the previous kings even if the Northern Heaven realm doesn't want it anymore. Deal." The 7th Demon Emperor laughed heartily. Eastern Heaven Realm, Hall of Great Accomplishment. In the silent night above the pavilion, Ziyao, who was sitting quietly in contemplation, suddenly opened her eyes. Her pair of beautiful eyes seemed to see through the sorrow of all living things. Her long eyelashes trembled a few times and 2 lines of clear tears fell. At that moment, she saw the suffering of all living beings, heard the silent crying, tasted the bitterness of parting, and there seemed to be thousands of voices shouting and praying in her ears. All living beings had never given up on praying and believing in God. What is Mahayana? Ziyao asked herself softly. Since ancient times, cultivators had cultivated their own state of mind, trained their own physique, and became as strong as God. What they cultivated was the strength of their own self. All living beings exterminate demons, and each of them save themselves. This was the minor heavenly way. The Mahayana heavenly way was the opposite. One thought was only for the common people, not to save myself, but to save the world. All living beings were my fate, and the difficulties of others were my difficulties. The corner of Ziyao's mouth rose slightly and she smiled. So, this is the Mahayana heavenly way. With a single thought, the nebula in the sky began to move, the giant heaven's melody scroll began to disperse the demonic aura in the air, lines of golden text began to appear on top of the scroll. On top of the scroll, a new name appeared. It was Ziyao, Mahayana Heaven's Path 2nd-tier superior god, title impartial goddess. Ziyao had finally stepped into the Mahayana heavenly way. The mortal realm. Thunder could be faintly heard from the horizon. On the hillside, a line of text appeared on the crystal in Lin Muyu's hand. He glanced at it and said, "Ziyao Fairy has become a god. Finally, another pillar god has appeared." Tang Xiaoxi said, That's great, the power of the Mahayana Heavenly Way has increased again. That's right, the battle for the Heaven Realm is about to begin, that is the true main battlefield. Lin Muyu was a bit eager, but he couldn't help himself. He still hasn't seen through the Mahayana Heavenly Way, nor could he recover his divine power. He could only continue to lead this war as a mortal. Suddenly, Tang Xiaoxi's gaze became gloomy. Mu, do you feel that? Someone is passing through the forest of no return. Lin Muyu released his spirit pulse technique and carefully sensed for a bit. Sure enough, there seemed to be a dense amount of presences passing through the forest of no return's path 10 miles away. Someone is passing through the ancient road of no return? Lin Muyu was surprised. Yes. Tang Xiaoxi said, who do you think it is? Big brother Feng, Qian Feng, and the others are fighting with the Shang army in Xishan province. At this time, who else but Chen Yu would pass through the ancient road of no return and enter Huiyuan province? Come, let's go and take a look. Don't make too much noise. Yes, hold me tight, I'll fly you over. Okay. In the night sky, two figures flew close to the surface of the jungle and soon entered the jungle on both sides of the ancient road of no return. Looking from afar, although the cold wind was blowing on the ancient road of no return, there were groups of torches, the sound of horse hooves, and the sound of wheels. The light of the torches shone on the armor and weapons, giving off a terrifying luster. A regular army was passing through. The war flag flew, and with the dim light, Lin Muyu said softly, it's the Heaven's End Army, the most elite army under Chen Yu. From the looks of it, it seems that the Heaven's End Army has come out in full force. Tang Xiaoxi smiled slightly. I finally understand why Sun Shi led the army to fight Feng Jixing in Xishan province. Now that I think about it, it was like he was fishing. When the Qin and Shang empires fight, they will naturally end up dispirited, and Chen Yu, this fox, will definitely not miss the opportunity to reap the benefits. He has already taken the bait. Once the Heaven's End Army enters Huiyuan province, it will be equivalent to roasting the Celestial Empire on a bonfire. Chen Yu is so smart, but he still fell for Sun Shi's trick. Lin Muyu's gaze was faint. It's because of greed. Let's go. Since Chen Yu has entered Huiyuan province and entered the northern battlefield, then we should start attacking from the south and burn Chen Yu's backyard. Yes. Chapter 1201. On the 12th of June, Lin Muyu and Tang Xiaoxi returned to Red Rock City after settling the affairs of the demonic spirit tribe. Before entering the city, they could already hear the loud and clear sounds of training coming from the Longdan army camp in the north of the city. After resting for a few months, the Longdan army camp's edge had been reforged once again. Now, the only thing on everyone's mind was revenge and attack. Wei Chou led a cavalry out of the city to welcome them. Lin General, you're finally back. The lunch prepared for you and Princess She is ready. Lin Muyu looked at the sun and said, it's already afternoon. Send the lunch to the conference hall. Order all the high-ranking officers to enter the conference hall and prepare the map. After entering the marshal's residence, Qin Yin, Chu Yao, and Si Kongyao also arrived. They welcomed Lin Muyu and Tang Xiaoxi into the conference hall. Not long after, Sidu Sen, Feng Shi, Feng Zhanlin, and the rest all arrived. Lin Muyu held a bowl of rice that was covered with meat slices and green peppers. She ate a few mouthfuls in front of everyone and quickly finished her meal. After putting down the bowl, she said, the conference begins. Everyone stood up and saluted before sitting down again. The map was spread out on the carpet in the center of the conference hall. Lin Muyu walked to the Red Rock province and said, Chen Yu has already personally led the 200,000 Heavens End Corps into the Huiyuan province. They should arrive at Huiyuan City in the afternoon. This way, the pressure on Feng Jixing and Qian Feng will suddenly increase. We're 2,000 li away from the Huiyuan province. We can't provide reinforcements, but we can't just watch from the sidelines either. Situ Sin said in a low voice, My lord, give the order. We're ready to attack at any time. There's no rush. We have to advance step by step. Lin Muyu took a few steps forward and stepped out of the Red Rock province. She stepped into the territory of the Celestial Empire and said, Wei Chou, how many troops of the Celestial Empire are there outside Fire Wolf Pass? Wei Chou said respectfully, reporting to Lin General, outside Fire Wolf Pass is the territory of the Celestial Empire. It's easy to defend and hard to attack. Their Vice Marshal, Song Liangqing, has personally led 180,000 troops to guard it. Half of the troops are of Song Liangqing's original troops, while the rest are transferred from the garrisons of the 4 southern provinces of the Celestial Empire. Of the troops are of the southern provinces. Song Liangqing's troops? A trace of killing intent flashed across Lin Muyu's face, but she quickly regained her composure and said, "For months ago, the troops of Song Liangqing who ambushed us outside Red Rock City have been incorporated into this Southern Patrol Army, right?" "Yes, Marshal, they're all here." Wei Chou frowned and said, "But we still can't underestimate Song Liangqing's 180,000 troops. Their geographical advantage is too great. If we leave Fire Wolf Pass, we'll have to cross Qinglan River to reach Ji City. The river is rapid and the narrowest part is at least 50 meters wide. The bridge leading to Ji City has already been destroyed by Song Liangqing a month ago." Lin Muyu looked at the map and said, "It doesn't matter. There are many forests along the way. Order the soldiers to cut down trees along the way and directly build a pontoon bridge when we reach Qinglan River." Yes, although this problem has been solved, Ji City is very sturdy. There are mountains on both sides that we can't go around. Song Liangqing's 180,000 troops are defending the city, and we're extremely short of magic crystal cannons. It'll be very difficult to break through. Wei Chou pointed at the map and said, "The most important thing is that Scorchinghan City is less than 800 miles away from Ji City. Zhou Binlong is leading 200,000 soldiers of the Judi army and is eyeing Scorchinghan City covetously. Once we attack Ji City, the cavalry under Zhou Binlong will be able to reinforce within 3 days." Lin Muyu took a deep breath and asked, "How many troops do we have in Hongyan province now?" Situ Sun cupped his fists and said, reporting to Lin General, "Excluding the injured soldiers, there are 150,000 elite troops in Longdan army camp. The Bai Zhe mercenaries have 110,000 troops available. In addition to the garrison troops that were incorporated along the way, there are about 70,000 people. Oh, and 3 days ago, the 30,000 armor demons that Marshal Qianfeng sent from Xishan province have also arrived. They are ready to be deployed by the Marshal at any time." Lin Muyu smiled faintly. "When did Qianfeng become so generous? He actually allocated 30,000 armor demons to me. How rare." Sidusun lowered his voice and said, "Actually, Qianfeng can't afford it anymore. He directly threw the 30,000 armor demons to us to eat our food. In less than 3 days, the 30,000 armor demons have eaten all the cattle and sheep in our pasture." Tang Xiaoxi, Qin Yin, and the other beauties all burst into laughter. The tense atmosphere was slightly eased. Lin Muyu thought for a while and said, "Originally, we had an 80% chance of winning. Now that Qianfeng has given me 30,000 armor demons, we have a 100% chance of winning. Pass down my order. Dispatch all the troops in Longdan army camp, Bai Zhe mercenaries, and 30,000 armor demons. Wei Chou will be the vanguard, Citizen will be the left army, Sidushui will be the right army, and Si Kongyao will be the rear army. I will personally lead the middle army. Tomorrow we will leave Firewolf Pass and attack Ji City. Appoint Lu Bai as the logistics officer. He must take care of the food along the way. If he can't, he will be executed." "Yes." Everyone bowed in unison. Their wills were as strong as a fortress. 3 days later, a total of 290,000 troops left Firewolf Pass. Along the way, they continuously swept away 3 camps of the Celestial Empire and directly entered Qinglan River. At this time, the weather was much warmer. In the spring breeze, Qinglan River had been completely blocked. Song Liangqing actually took the initiative to attack. He set up a defense on the other side of Qinglan River. Heavy shields and archers were everywhere. A war was about to break out. Lin Muyu ordered to set up camp 5 miles away from Qinglan River and dig for water. Most of the water in Qinglan River was no longer drinkable. On the first day, Countless fish had died. Song Liangqing was indeed ruthless. He had already poisoned the water. In the camp on the east bank, Song Liangqing, as the deputy commander of the Celestial Empire, was wearing a general robe with 4 golden stars. He was fidgeting in front of the sand table. His eyes flashed. He knew that Lin Muyu's army seemed to be advancing slowly, but in fact he could feel the murderous aura that Lin Muyu was suppressing. This army came with the flame of revenge. Lin Muyu would never forget the hatred of Su Jiantao on Bugu Mountain. Neither would the Qin Empire. Deputy Commander? A staff officer said respectfully, "We have already poured the poison into the upper reaches of Qinglan River late last night. It will force the enemy to not be able to drink water. The 50,000 troops have almost blocked the flat areas of Qinglan River. Qinglan River is an inland river. Lin Muyu's warships can't reach here. They can't do anything." "Is that so?" Song Liangqing looked at him indifferently and said, "Did His Majesty leave me a message before he left?" "Yes, His Majesty left you a brocade pouch." "Oh? Give it to me." Song Liangqing took the brocade pouch from the staff officer. There was a piece of paper inside. He glanced at it. It was indeed Qin Yu's handwriting. It was a short line, "Guard Ji City. Don't attack. Wait for reinforcements." "What does His Majesty mean?" Song Liangqing asked. His Majesty must have a deep meaning for his foresight. The staff officer nodded and muttered, "Half a month ago, His Majesty led his personal guards to the eastern fertile area. Do you know what kind of people live there? Isn't it a barren land? No, there is a group of strange creatures living there. A group of creatures that are good at fighting at night." "The rat men?" Song Liangqing narrowed his eyes and said, "Did His Majesty reach an agreement with the rat men? Is he going to borrow the rat men's power to resist Lin Muyu's Longdan army camp?" "Yes, at least that's what I think. Otherwise, with His Majesty's shrewdness, how could he not defend the southern border and attack Huiyuan province? The rat men are despicable and shameless. Did His Majesty forget that they eat people?" "Yes, a few days ago, there was news of the rat men eating people in the eastern province, but the news was suppressed by the government. Could this be His Majesty's intention?" "How dare you?" Song Liangqing's eyes were cold. "Is His Majesty that kind of person? He will never use the flesh and blood of his people to exchange for reinforcements from the rat men." The staff officer smiled and no longer cared about this. He only said, "His Majesty ordered us to defend Ji City. Do you still want to fight the Qin traders at Qinglan River? Qinglan River is also within Ji City's territory. We can delay them as long as we can." Song Liangqing said lightly, "I'm just a little worried." "Worried about what? The Qin traders' 2 Mahayana heavenly gods?" Song Liangqing said in a deep voice, "Pass down my order. Increase the size of the Imperial Guard camp from 2,000 to 8,000 people." In the forest to the west of Qinglan River, the royal flag was fluttering and the armored cavalry was coming and going. In the marshal's tent, a small scout bee was resting on a teacup. "The rat men?" Lin Muyu frowned and pondered for a long time. She asked, "Lulu, do you think the rat men's abnormal behavior is man-made?" "It's my brother." In the laser image, Lulu's delicate body was fluttering in the air. She said, "Every group has its own survival rules. The rat men have always been nocturnal creatures. They are good at digging underground caves and feed on rabbits, wolves, cows, and sheep. But these years, the rat men's group has become larger and larger, and their reproduction numbers have also increased. It has exceeded the requirements of the food chain. The rat men's food supply is not enough, so they choose to eat humans. Moreover, they have begun to move west. There are more than 100,000 of them. I guess they may have been bewitched and are targeting my brother's army." "Do the rat men dig deep?" "Brother, don't worry. Their caves are not deep enough to bypass Qinglan River. But once you cross the river, you will enter the rat men's attack range. No wonder Song Liangqing dares to be so fearless." Lin Muyu clasped her fists and said, "What are the rat men afraid of? The blood and body fluids of the rat men contain flammable components. As long as you attack with fire, you will naturally be able to defeat the rat men easily. However, brother, you also have to be wary of the rat men's attacks from underground. Their teeth are very sharp and can bite through iron armor. Once they bite, they won't let go and will tear off a large piece of flesh. Got it? Thank you, Lulu. Let me know if there are any new developments. Lulu's body slowly disappeared. Lin Muyu looked outside the tent and said, "Someone, tell Wei Chou, Si Kong Yao, Sidu Sen, and Feng Shi to come here." Chapter 1202. Rat People? Wei Chou was a little surprised. Si Kong Yao blinked her eyes and said, "I have heard of this race before. When I was young, I saw some rat people in the eastern wilderness. Brother Yu, will the rat people really attack us?" "It seems so. Since Yao knows that the rat people have seen them before, can you tell us in detail?" "Yes." Si Kong Yao nodded and said, "The rat people are cruel by nature. Although they are called rat people, they are actually 80% beasts and 20% humans. They will eat people when they are hungry. Moreover, this race is extremely greedy. There was a rumor that wherever the rat people went, the whole village would be left with piles of white bones. They are even more terrifying than the plague. Everyone wants to avoid them. How could this Qin Yu let the wolf into the house?" "There is nothing that they won't do when they are forced into a corner," Situsen said. "Lin General, since we might have to fight with the rat people, do you have a plan?" Lulu said that the rat people are afraid of fire attacks, so we need to prepare more fire starters and wrap them on the arrowheads of the white drill arrows. Once we encounter the rat people army, we will use the fire arrows to kill them. Try not to fight them in close combat, it will inevitably cause unnecessary losses. "Yes, I will go prepare now." Wei Chou said, "Sir, the rafts and driftwood are already prepared. They will be ready by tomorrow morning. When do we cross the river?" "First prepare the fire arrows. We will attack tomorrow at dawn. The rat people are creatures that fight in the night. We must take down the Qinglan River during the day and set up camp on the west side of the river. Otherwise, we will be in trouble. Also, we need to get water tonight. After crossing the river, we must ensure that there is enough water." "Yes." After nightfall, both sides of the river were silent. Song Liangqing's army only set up camp on the side of the river. There was no sign of them taking the initiative to attack. Even if Song Liangqing was bold, he would not dare to take the initiative to attack. After all, there was a huge difference in strength between the two sides. He knew this very well. If they were to fight with the main force of the Longdan army camp and Baizhe mercenaries, there was no army in the whole continent that had more than a 30% chance of winning. Walla. Amidst the sound of waves crashing against the shore, there was also a trace of moisture and the smell of the river. The temperature gradually warmed up, and the smell of the water seemed to have the feeling that all living things were coming back to life. Lin Muyu slowly walked along the riverbank, followed by a group of royal guards. Qin Yin and Tang Xiaoxi also followed closely behind. Right now, the two girls were more like bodyguards protecting Lin Muyu, the commander-in-chief of the three armies who had yet to step into the Mahayana realm. Song Liangqing seems very confident. Tang Xiaoxi pouted and said, "He actually dares to oppose us across the river. I wonder where his confidence comes from." "Ratman? Only Ratman can make him so fearless," Lin Muyu said. Qin Yin frowned and said, "Big brother Yu, did you sense something?" Lin Muyu looked southwest and said, "My spirit pulse technique sensed a strange aura appearing in that forest. That forest is called Lush Forest on the map. Xiao Yin and Xiao Shi, let's go and check it out?" "Okay, let's go." After ordering the royal guards to return to camp, the three of them went into battle with light gear. They stepped on the water and bypassed Song Liangqing's camp, heading straight for the lush forest in the southeast. Looking from afar, the lush forest was even a little lush. This forest was mostly coniferous forest and pine and cypress, so even in the cold winter, it was still lush green. However, there was now an additional element of uncertainty in the lush forest. Lin Muyu and the others' footsteps were extremely light. They quietly entered the lush forest and then carefully groped their way forward. The three divine swords were hidden in their scabbards, not letting out any light. After walking for about 10 minutes, Lin Muyu suddenly raised her hand and signaled for them to stop. Then, the three of them slowly squatted down in a damp shrub. There were damp and broken leaves all around them. The leaves had not even had time to grow because winter came too quickly and had only just begun to rot. In the distance, there were no lights. They could only rely on the illumination of the stars to distinguish things. Qin Yin and Tang Xiaoxi widened their beautiful eyes and stared into the distance. Over there, figures with stooped bodies appeared. They looked like humans, but at the same time, they were not. They were about 1.5 meters tall, and their skulls were a little ridiculous. Their mouths protruded forward crazily, revealing a pair of incisors, and on both sides were pairs of fangs. They were rat men. Tang Xiaoxi was a little shocked. Just as she was about to say something, Lin Muyu gently covered her mouth and signaled her with her eyes not to make a sound. Rat men's senses were very strong. If they heard anything, it would be bad. GG. In the distance, two rat men were talking. It was a completely incomprehensible conversation. Lin Muyu began to wonder how Qin Yu had bribed these rat men. Could it be that they also talked like this? Look, Qin Yin whispered. In the distance, more and more rat men appeared. Under the starlight, their expressions were extremely ferocious, and their incisors glinted with a cold light. There were more than 2,000 of them, and they seemed to cover the entire mountain. Soon after, an elder-looking rat man with white hair on his neck walked up to a small hill. He raised the staff in his hand and shouted, no one knew what he was shouting, but the group of rat men seemed to have gone crazy and waved their hands. No, it was their claws. They were claws that could quickly dig the ground. The group of rat men began to dig the ground, causing mud to fly everywhere. Lin Muyu frowned and whispered, "They're digging holes." Tang Xiaoxi asked, "Why are they digging holes?" "Holes are their battlefield. That's why they're digging holes." Lin Muyu signaled the two girls to retreat. She stared at the group of rat men in the forest and said, "Once our army crosses Qinglan River, I'm afraid we'll have to fight them." The moment the three of them retreated from the forest, a scream suddenly came from the left, "GGGG. It was two rat men scouts. "We've been discovered." Lin Muyu immediately said, "Don't do anything. Let me see just how strong these rat men are." After saying that, she rushed over with her bare hands. The two rat men bared their fangs and claws. One of them quickly pounced on Lin Muyu, its sharp claws leaving a bloody arc in the air. Lin Muyu blocked it with her arms. Bang! The sound of the attack was shocking. Judging from their strength, the rat man's strength was equivalent to that of a human realm master. Although it was far from the armor demon's monstrous strength, it was at least stronger than ordinary people. What was even more frightening was their movements. The second rat man grabbed hold of Lin Muyu's retreating step and climbed up his back. It opened its mouth and bit at the back of his neck. Lin Muyu's intention was to find out the rat folk's speed and attack methods. Now that she knew, she didn't even turn her head and punched out with her fist. In an instant, the starlight flashed, and the rat folk's head was smashed into smithereens. Immediately after, she felt a faint pain in her wrist. It was the bite of the other rat folk. Once it was bitten, it wouldn't let go. Sure enough, this creature's cruelty was not inferior to the armor demon. Lin Muyu lightly shook her arm. Her dou qi revolved around her and shattered the rat man's head. Then, she kicked the rat man's head away and retreated from the bloody mist. She said with cold eyes, "If these rat men appear in our battle formation, with 100,000 of them, I'm afraid the Longdan army camp will lose more than half of their forces." "Then what do you want to do?" Qin Yin asked. Lin Muyu thought for a moment and said, "The rat men are nocturnal creatures. Yao said that during the day, the rat men's vision is very poor. They can't adapt to the strong light of the sun. My plan is to quickly defeat Song Liangqing's army during the day and find the rat men's habitat before sunset. Then, we will attack first and destroy the rat men army during the day." "Are you sure?" I'm not absolutely sure, but we can only do this. We don't have enough food, so we can only quickly attack the enemy's food to replenish our own. Mu, didn't you order Lu Bai to supervise the food supply? Orders are one thing, but whether we can do it or not is another. Yes. Lin Muyu glanced at the lush forest where the mouse men were. They had dug a hole here as a place to rest. Tomorrow, they would sleep in the hole for the entire day. Only at night would there be a bloody battle. The next morning, the war drums roared and the flags of the Longdan army camp and the Baizhe mercenaries were raised. Rafts were launched into the water one by one, almost covering the entire Qinglan River. Wei Chou and Si Kongyao formed the first echelon, with close to 50,000 people crossing Qinglan River. The war drums became more and more intense, and arrows fell like rain from both sides of the river. The remaining magic crystal cannons in the Longdan army camp continued to rumble and fall into the enemy camp, causing chaos. Advance, don't retreat. Wei Chou held the Ho-Yi bow in his hand, continuously shooting the enemy archers as he loudly urged his soldiers. The densely packed infantry and shield soldiers of the Longdan army camp raised their giant shields above their heads and formed a shield formation, paddling forward with all their might. Qinglan River was not wide, and in the blink of an eye, they had already engaged in close combat with the enemy. They pulled out their steel swords and slashed wildly, while the Tianjua soldiers raised their spears and stabbed wildly at the soldiers crossing the river. In the blink of an eye, Qinglan River was almost covered in blood. Wei Chou was well versed in the art of war, and he commanded his men well. In less than 20 minutes, he had successfully led his men to cross the river, and in the blink of an eye, he was fighting with Song Liangqing's troops on the shore. Although Si Kongyao's troops were a little slower, the Baizhe mercenaries were also quite elite. They followed closely behind and began to go ashore. Behind them, there was an endless stream of rafts, transporting a large number of Qin army over. The sound of magic crystal crossbows and strong bows could be heard incessantly. Once the positional battle began, Song Liangqing's troops began to collapse rapidly. In terms of combat power, the Longdan army camp was much stronger than the Southern Patrol Army. Almost every soldier could fight against 3 or even 5. The battle continued until noon. Song Liangqing's troops suffered heavy losses, leaving nearly 30,000 corpses behind. They retreated to Ji City and closed their doors, refusing to fight. Lin Muyu ordered the troops to prepare for war and set up camp on the east bank. In the afternoon, barrels of black beech oil were transported over. Lin Muyu ordered Situ Sin to lead 150,000 troops to set up a defense line in the west of Ji City, blocking Song Liangqing's troops in Ji City. Then she ordered Wei Chou and Si Kongyao to send the army into Maolin. Chapter 1203. The soldiers who entered the forest were carefully selected. There were 20 people in a group. 12 of the shield-bearers formed a circular shield formation on the outside, 5 spearmen were responsible for attacking, and 3 strong archers were responsible for long-range shooting. In this way, even if such a combat team was attacked by the ratmen, they would not completely collapse. Lin Muyu, Qin Yin, and Tang Xiaoxi also entered the forest together. They watched as barrels of black beech oil were poured into the rat holes. However, the underground rat holes extended in all directions. No one knew how many holes the ratmen had dug. The only thing they could do was pour the black beech oil into the holes or block them with large stones. The smell of the black beech oil was very pungent. Not long after, ratmen continuously rushed out of the holes, screaming and slamming into the heavy shields of the combat team. They scurried around in search of targets, but the Longdan army camp and Baizhe mercenaries were too well prepared. These ratmen were covered in the black beech oil, and in the end, they could not escape the fate of being hacked to death. More and more ratmen rushed out. In nearly 2 hours, at least 1,000 ratmen had rushed out. They were not willing to wait for death, so they had to give it their all. Wei Chou rode his horse over and said respectfully, "All our black beech oil has been used up. Lin General, is there a fire?" Lin Muyu nodded. "Tell the soldiers who have been stained with the black beech oil to stay away from the fire. Let's start the fire." Wei Chao's subordinates waved the command flag, and suddenly, countless torches were thrown into the holes. In an instant, there was a continuous buzzing sound. The black beech oil was not an ordinary flammable material. Long flames shot out from the holes, and there were even sounds of explosions coming from underground. The ground was shaking and shaking. The intensity of this underground fire was far beyond everyone's imagination. "Be on guard," Si Kongyao ordered loudly. Across the mountains and plains, countless Qin soldiers raised up their shields, cautiously looking at all the burning holes. Very soon, clumps of raging fire surged out from the ground. They were the ratmen, their bodies covered in fire. Wei Chou quickly shot one arrow at a time and shouted, "Don't get close to them, shoot them from afar or stab them with your spears." Arrows rained down like rain, and every combat team fought for themselves, shooting out arrows. However, the rat folk's charge was incredibly powerful, and they didn't immediately die from the fire. Instead, they continued to attack the surrounding shield formations. Very quickly, shield formations were broken through one after another, and soldiers fell into the sea of fire, screaming in pain. Lin Muyu unsheathed her sword and rushed out. Sword chi wreaked havoc, killing a large number of ratmen. Qin Yin, Tang Xiaoxi, Zhulong, Feng Zhanlin, and the others also moved out. The more ratmen they killed, the less soldiers they would have to sacrifice. The battle continued until dusk. The entire forest was filled with a burnt smell. The wounded soldiers all returned to camp. Under Lin Muyu's orders, a defensive line was set up around the forest. Just a quick calculation. Si Kongyao walked over with her blood-stained longsword in hand, saying, "There are more than 13,000 rat men corpses outside. I'm not sure about the ones inside the cave, but it's clear that this isn't the full strength of the rat men." Lin Muyu nodded. "No need to calculate. There are more than 60,000 rat men corpses in the cave. Adding them together, there are about 80,000 rat men corpses. That is to say, another 20,000 rat men escaped, or these rat men didn't come to the forest. By the way, did you find a rat man with a white scarf among the corpses?" "You mean the white-collar Ratman King?" "Oh? He's called the white-collar Ratman King?" Si Kongyao smiled faintly and said, "Because the fur on its neck is white, it's like it's wearing a white collar, so it's called the white-collar Rat King. For now, the corpses are all burnt, so it's impossible to identify the Rat King. It's even more impossible to explore the cave, so I've already ordered all the entrances to be sealed." "You must be careful tonight," Lin Muyu said worriedly. "Maybe tonight, the remaining Ratman army will take revenge on us. Order all the battalions to be on alert. All soldiers sleep on their weapons. Prepare white arrows and fire arrows. Once the Ratmen appear, kill them immediately." This night, of course, would not be simple. The Ratman army had suffered such a big loss in the forest. It was impossible for them not to take revenge. After all, the Ratmen were wild beasts, and the revenge of wild beasts was the most terrifying. At night, the bright moon hung in the sky. After dinner, Lin Muyu couldn't sleep, so she personally patrolled the camp with a few royal guards. In fact, Wei Chou, Si Kongyao, Sidu Sen and the others didn't sleep either. The possibility of being attacked tonight was too high, so no one dared to sleep. By the latter half of the night, most of the soldiers in the camp had fallen into a deep sleep. After a day of battle, their physical strength had been exhausted, and they were truly exhausted. Lin Muyu walked to the edge of the camp and suddenly stopped. She looked at the ground. "Marshal, what's wrong?" one of the royal guards asked. Lin Muyu carefully sensed the fluctuations from the spiritual pulse technique and said, "The Ratmen are here. At least tens of thousands of them have arrived. Soon, their caves will be under our feet. Immediately pass down the order, beat the drums as a signal, and prepare to meet the enemy." The signal flare soared into the sky, and the camp was lit up. The sleeping soldiers woke up one by one. One by one, they walked out of the camp and quickly formed into 20-people combat teams. "The Ratmen are here." Sure enough, the sound of the earth moving continuously came from the ground. Boom! In an instant, dozens of soldiers fell down together. The ground under their feet was dug out, and the people who fell down screamed in pain. Almost instantly, they were bitten to death by a group of locust-like ratmen. One after another, more and more holes appeared under the camp, and the ratmen flew out, pouncing on the soldiers in a densely packed manner. "Shoot, kill them all." The sound of arrows being released could be heard everywhere, but the ratmen had strong vitality. They were injured but not dead. They still waved their sharp claws and roared as they charged at the people. In the midst of the chaos, Lin Muyu, Qin Yin, and Tang Xiaoxi appeared at the center of the camp. There were the most ratmen there. The marshal's tent had already been occupied. The bodies of 2 royal guards were lying among the ratmen. A ratman wearing a white scarf screamed at the people. It was the white-collar ratman king. He finally appeared. From the big hole behind the ratman king, a large number of ratmen swarmed into the camp. Soon, they gathered into a large group. There were tens of thousands of them. As expected, we are going to have a hard battle. Wei Chao's eyes were indifferent. Lin Muyu held the long sword in her hand and said in a low voice, "Xiao Yin, Xiao Shi, hold the line. Everyone else, step aside. Let the first demon camp face them head-on. Archers, aim and shoot. Shield formation, block all the ratmen in the middle." "Yes, Marshal," everyone shouted. Giant shields that were taller than a person formed a line. After the cavalry stepped aside, there was a group of armor demons carrying battle axes, war hammers, and spears behind them. The eyes of the armor demons were blood-red and filled with killing intent. After a roar, they began to fight with the ratman army. In terms of strength, the armor demons were far above the ratmen. Moreover, their bodies were covered with hard shells that the ratmen could not bite through. It could even be said that the armor demons were the natural nemesis of the ratmen. In the air, the broken bodies of the ratmen were flying in the air. The stench of blood filled everyone's noses. Wei Chou personally led the archery battalion to kill them. They avoided the first demon camp and directly rained arrows on the group of ratmen. Although the Ratman King ordered to break through several times, he could not break through the defense of the shield formation. As a result, their aggressive attack on the camp became like a turtle in a jar. "Jijia! Jijia!" The Ratman King roared fiercely. "Not good, they want to escape," Si Kong Yao shouted. But Lin Muyu smiled and said, "They can't escape." As soon as he finished speaking, the king's battle flame surged from his 5 fingers, and the invisible elephant technique was activated. An awe-inspiring heavenly might descended from the sky, and with a pring sound, the hole that the Rat King had led the Ratman army through was crushed. Streaks of fiery light appeared in the sky, and they were the figures of the Xingtian heavenly army. "Kill them all, don't leave a single one alive," Lin Muyu said in a low voice. Tens of thousands of ratmen were killed by the arrows. Very few of them escaped. Basically, they were all killed by the white diamond arrows. This battle didn't end until dawn. The Qin army won. The Ratman King's head was chopped off by Lin Muyu and sent to Song Liangqing in Ji City as a gift. After a short rest in the morning, Lin Muyu issued an order. Wei Chou led 100,000 soldiers and went around the mountains from the forest. They blocked the Ji City's retreat from the east. The 2 armies completely surrounded Ji City. Within a day, they cut off the Ji City's food supply and all the reinforcements. In the afternoon, a cool breeze was blowing. On the lush mountain ridge, Lin Muyu, Qin Yin, Tang Xiaoxi, and the others looked into the distance. They had a panoramic view of Ji City. This was only a small city with a population of less than 100,000. It couldn't afford to support Song Liangqing's 150,000 Southern Patrol Army. If they defended Ji City to the death, it would be a dead end. In the sound of horse hooves, a royal guard galloped over. "Your Highness, Marshal, Song Liangqing sent a letter." "Give it to me." Lin Muyu opened the letter and glanced at it. She said, "Song Liangqing seems to want to sue for peace." Citizen asked, "What kind of peace?" "As long as Wei Chou gives way to the east of Ji City, he's willing to lead the Southern Patrol Army to retreat to the east and give up Ji City. Moreover, he'll give us 700,000 dawn of food and fodder, as well as 5,000 caddies of gold." Marshal, what do you mean? Sidu-san asked with a hint of worry. Lin Muyu smiled. There was some grace in her smile, but there was more hatred. She said, Song Liangqing set up an ambush and killed my Su Jiantao in Buga Mountain. Does he think that it's so easy to write off this debt? Pass the order, we'll start attacking the city tomorrow. Wei Chou will defend the east to the death. Don't let any of Song Liangqing's men escape. We don't need any captives in this battle. Anyone whose hands are stained with the blood of Su Jiantao and our brothers in the Longdan army camp will be killed without mercy. I want to slaughter everyone in this city to comfort Su Jiantao's soul in heaven. Qin Yin, Tang Xiaoxi, Sidu-san knelt on the ground with tears in his eyes. He said, I asked to be the vanguard. If I can kill these bastards and avenge Su Jiantao, I, Sidu-san, will die without regret. Lin Muyu nodded and said, Qin Yu and Yangshang always think that we are Western barbarians. Then, let them see the ferocity of our Qin Empire's revenge, yes. Chapter 1204. On the northern front, after receiving Lin Muyu's message, Feng Jixing ordered the army to abandon the various passes and fortresses within 3 days. The entire army retreated and defended within a radius of 100 kilometers from Shiping City. The massive army of 500,000 made it impossible for the enemy to continue attacking. Yangshang had originally planned to feign an attack, so he left resentfully. The 200,000-strong Tianjue army under Qin Yu's personal command took the opportunity to enter the Huiyuan province and began the difficult journey of advancing or retreating. The Huiyuan province was the site of 3 battles. It was adjacent to East Kam province to the north and Xishan province to the west. Feng Jixing and Qin Yu could attack at any time, but Qin Yu could no longer retreat even if he wanted to. He could only defend the Huiyuan province and wait for the right time to change. June 17th. Everything began to recover. The trees and vegetation on the mountains began to sprout green buds. The sunny weather lasted for nearly half a month, and it seemed that spring had arrived. On such a sunny day, the Longdan army camp quickly attacked the Ji city. The entire western city wall of the Ji city was covered in artillery fire and crossbow arrows. Sidu-san personally led the Longdan army camp to attack the city. This was the second day. The western city wall of the Ji city was already riddled with holes. The city gate had also begun to loosen. The city wall was also stained with blood, some from the Southern Patrol Army, and some from the Longdan Army camp. This battle was very tragic. Both sides suffered many casualties. After a fierce attack in the morning, the attack camp retreated. They were still unable to take down the city wall. Situ-sen's face was covered in blood. He had even rushed up the city wall, but he was still forced back by the Southern Patrol Army's heavy military power. There was a new scar on his handsome face. It was a sword wound. Marshal, give me another half a day. I will definitely take down the western city wall, he said with cupped fists. Don't be anxious. Lin Muyu waved her hand. Someone give him a seat. General Sun can rest for a while. How many people have we lost in the past 2 days? About 3,000. That's too many. Lin Muyu frowned and said, I just received news that the 3rd batch of supplies from Winterfrost City has arrived at the front line. In about 4 hours, 30,000 magic crystal cannons will be delivered to the battlefield, so don't be in a hurry to attack. When the magic crystal cannons arrive, we can knock on the city gate without bloodshed. Xiao Yin and Xiao Shi will help you break the city. Once the city wall is breached, it will be urban warfare. I will leave Jia Demon Camp and Blade Shield Camp to you. You must end the battle in Ji City within 3 days and wipe out Song Liangqing, Southern Patrol Army. Also, don't let Song Liangqing go. Send Wing Liangqing. Yes, I understand. Marshal, please put it down. At dusk, the first batch of magic crystal cannons was transported across the Qinglan River with difficulty. Sidu-sen's next wave of attack was launched. Lin Muyu, Qin Yin, and Tang Xiaoxi personally supervised the battle. They rode on their warhorses and watched the siege from afar. Dong, 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 the war drums thundered, as if beating on everyone's heart. The soldiers of the Southern Patrol Army on the city wall were also exhausted, but no one dared to slack off. They all knew that the army attacking the city was the Southern Patrol Army's mortal enemy, the legendary Longdan Army Camp, which had been shot and killed by Commander Su Jiantao. Once the city was breached, there would be no chance of survival. They are coming again. A captaincy wiped his blood-stained steel saber and said. Song Liangqing held onto the battlements, and his eyes were cold. His Majesty ordered us to wait for reinforcements. There will definitely be reinforcements. No one should retreat. Defend the city wall with your lives. They have run out of cannons, so they won't be able to breach the city wall so easily. We must defend G City even if we have to fight to the last man. Do you understand? Yes, Deputy Commander. Everyone shouted in unison. However, at this moment, the cannons of the Longdan army camp in the distance suddenly spat out tongues of fire. Immediately after, magic crystal cannons fell on the city wall one after another, blooming flowers of death. Then, a storm swept through the city wall, forcing everyone to retreat. This round of bombardment had actually made the western city wall shake. Even the iron gate made of fine steel had been burned red, and it seemed like it would not be able to hold on any longer. Damn it! Song Liangqing gripped his long sword tightly and looked up at the sky, only to find that the heavenly Xingtian army riding on phoenixes were cruising in the sky. They had long controlled the air control of the entire battlefield. Not to mention breaking out of the encirclement, even a demon like Song Liangqing would not be able to escape so easily. Deputy Commander, what should we do? The group of captaincy panicked. Prepare for urban warfare. Song Liangqing held his long sword and said, Don't panic. G City is our city. We are more familiar with everything in G City. Order the soldiers in the city to prepare for battle. We still have 150,000 men and horses. We can hold on for at least 10 days in urban warfare. The reinforcements from Scorching Han City should have arrived long ago. Yes. Creak, creak. In the distance, the huge iron gate of the western city gate was burned red and distorted, making unpleasant twisting sounds. After a round of bombardment, Sidusen had already ordered the assault battalion to attack again. Lin Muyu watched from afar and said, Xiao Yin, are you confident that you can break the gate with one strike? Qin Yi nodded. Go and help the assault battalion break the gate. Next, it's Sidusen's job. Alright. Qin Yin leaped up and transformed into a stream of light that flew to the front of the city wall. Immediately, a group of soldiers from the Longdan army camp recognized her and were all astonished. Look, it's Her Highness the Empress. Why is Her Highness here? Her Highness. Is she cheering for us? Just when everyone was excited, Qin Yin raised her hand and pulled out the Donghua sword. With a soft groan, the Mahayana heaven's power surrounded her body and a vast power of order was infused into the longsword. She instantly activated Xian's 7 strikes and slashed at the city gate. Boom! The sword aura turned into a biting cold storm that instantly tore the huge city gate into pieces. It even split a huge gap in the city wall. The sword aura passed through the city wall and flew straight into the main road of the city. In an instant, it engulfed the Southern Patrol soldiers who were guarding the city and preparing for battle. Immediately, screams rose into the sky. This sword was incomparably destructive, and it almost shocked the Southern Patrol soldiers with just one strike. For a moment, the Southern Patrol soldiers inside and outside the city were stunned. This wasn't a power that belonged to humans. It was the power of a Mahayana heaven's god. On the other hand, the assault battalion soldiers from the Longdan army camp raised their weapons and shields and shouted, The Empress is mighty! Long live the Empress! Under Sidusen's command, thousands of people swarmed into the city and fought with the Southern Patrol soldiers. The Southern Patrol soldiers were almost unable to resist the footsteps of the Longdan army camp. Most of the battle formations collapsed upon contact. Whether it was combat power or tactics, they were far inferior, and it was impossible for them to compete with the Longdan army camp on the battlefield. The Longdan army camp was a division that had been through hundreds of battles, and it wasn't an exaggeration to say that the Southern Patrol soldiers were a motley crew. Moreover, at this time, everyone in the Longdan army camp was only thinking about revenge and fighting spirit. This was something that the Southern Patrol soldiers couldn't compare to. Qin Yin returned to the center of the army and landed gently beside Lin Muyu. "Xiao Yin, the power of this sword is really amazing," Lin Muyu praised. Qin Yin smiled faintly and said, "If Xiaoxi used this sword, the power might not be weaker than mine." Tang Xiaoxi smiled faintly and didn't say anything. After a few seconds, Qin Yin said, "Brother Yu, since you have decided to annihilate Song Liangqing's troops, why didn't you order to bombard Ji City and use the magic crystal cannons to turn Ji City into a pile of ruins?" Lin Muyu nodded and said, "There are two reasons why I did this. First, there are too few magic crystal cannons in stock, and we can't waste them casually. There are still countless city gates waiting for us to break through after Ji City. Second, there are still 100,000 civilians in Ji City, and I don't want to let 100,000 civilians die because of my momentary anger. In this battle, I will only kill the Southern Patrol soldiers and not the civilians." Qin Yin smiled faintly and said, "So you haven't changed. I'm relieved." Lin Muyu began to summon a Catasaurus and said, "Xiao Yin, Xiao Shi, let's go to the sky and overlook the entire battlefield. Block the sky and don't let Song Liangqing escape. In addition, order Wei Chao's troops to attack together. They will attack from the front and the back, so that Song Liangqing will have no way out." But, in fact, Song Liangqing didn't plan to escape. The Southern Patrol Army was his life and everything to him. Once the Southern Patrol Army was annihilated, Song Liangqing's life would come to an end. Without the inferior demon god of the Southern Patrol Army, such a commander without an army was nothing. Qin Yu wouldn't put him in an important position, and Lin Muyu would chase after him at all costs. It would be better to die if that happened. Sidu Sen had already led the assault battalion into the city. In terms of the ability to fight in the streets, the barbarian warriors were the best in the world, while the Jia Demon Battalion was the second best. However, these two battalions were now in the hands of Lin Muyu. It was only a matter of time before they annihilated the Southern Patrol Army. The street battle lasted from the afternoon of the 17th until the morning of the 19th. There were traces of fighting everywhere in the city. Song Liangqing had 150,000 troops, so it wasn't easy to kill them all. For 3 days, the whole city was covered with blood and corpses. The Southern Patrol Army who had lost the ability to fight back were all killed. In this battle, Lin Muyu ordered that no captives would be kept, and no surrender would be accepted. Therefore, the Southern Patrol Army had no choice but to put up a futile and weak resistance before they died. The second team to enter the city was the 3,000 Imperial Guards and more than 100 Imperial Guards who were responsible for protecting Qin Yin. At this time, the Imperial Guards took on the responsibility of maintaining order in the city. They eliminated all the Southern Patrol Army who disguised themselves as civilians and threatened the civilians. At the same time, they put up notices to pacify the civilians. All the civilians who gathered in the city square would be protected and given food and water. Lin Muyu rode a warhorse and accompanied Tang Xiaoxi, Qin Yin, and Si Kongyao into the city slowly. The air was filled with the smell of blood, which made people feel uncomfortable. The sun had just risen, bringing a wisp of warmth to people. "Found him." Sidu Sen's excited voice came from afar. "Lin General, we caught Song Liangqing." "Where is he? Bring him here immediately." Surrounded by the crowd, a person could be seen being escorted by dozens of people. His hands were shackled by the demonic heartstone and he had lost his divine power. There were still a few arrows trembling in his chest. Obviously, he was shot by the demonic heart arrow and lost the power of the demonic flame before he was caught. Otherwise, it wouldn't be so easy for Situ Sen and the other ordinary people to catch a lower-rank demon god. Chapter 1205. Kneel. Sidu Sen kicked him heavily. Instantly, Song Liangqing knelt in the mud in a sorry state. He raised his head and saw Lin Muyu in a marshal's cloak. "You're Lin Muyu?" Song Liangqing asked. Yes. Haha. Song Liangqing laughed maniacally. What are you laughing at? Lin Muyu asked. Song Liangqing's eyes were bloodshot as he said, I'm laughing at how I didn't catch you back then, but caught a mere Su Jiantao instead. Otherwise, the one kneeling here should be you, Lin Muyu. Is that so? Lin Muyu smiled faintly. Do you feel proud of killing Su Jiantao? Yes. Su Jiantao is also my pride. Lin Muyu dismounted from the horse and slowly walked forward. A dignified aura circulated around her, and her hand, which was holding the hilt of her sword, trembled slightly. Song Liangqing sneered. Why? Do you want revenge? Do you want to pretend to be the victor? Do you think you are the side of justice? You're nothing, and you guys are nothing. You're just thieves who invade other countries' territories. And you're just an executioner, a despicable executioner. I don't offend thieves, but thieves will offend me. Lin Muyu's voice was very soft. She looked straight at Song Liangqing and said faintly, 2 years ago, the celestial pole continent's invasion of the Shattered Cauldron realm proved everything. And you're right. I can't represent justice. There's no justice in war. I'm just an executioner whose hands are stained with blood. But once I, this executioner, unify the celestial pole continent, I'll rule the country according to the Constitution. I'll let the world be peaceful and stay away from war. And you guys, you're just a bunch of beasts who only know how to rob and play with women. If you want to kill, then kill. Why are you talking so much? Song Liangqing, on the other hand, was full of pride. He raised his head and said, I will never regret shooting Su Jiantao. If I were given another chance, I would do the same thing. You won't have such a chance. Lin Muyu raised her hand and said to Situ Shui, Shui, bring me Su Jiantao's sword. Situ Shui walked over with a broken sword in her hands. Lin Muyu grabbed the hilt of her sword and abruptly raised her leg, kicking Song Liangqing to the ground. She stepped on his back, causing him to kneel on the ground. She indifferently said, You are not worthy to speak his name. Go to hell. The broken sword was gently placed on the back of Song Liangqing's neck. Instantly, a faint chill seeped into his body. Song Liangqing couldn't help but shiver. He started to regret for no reason. He trembled and said, Lin Muyu, must you kill me? Swoosh. She raised the broken sword and quickly swung it down. Instantly, blood splattered. However, this sword had killed countless enemies before Su Jiantao died in battle. It was already blunt, and there were many dents on the blade. Lin Muyu's sword didn't completely sever Song Liangqing's neck. Instead, her hand was stained with blood. Hence, she raised the broken sword and swung it again. After 3 consecutive slashes, only 1/3 of Song Liangqing's head was still attached to his body. Situ Sun stepped forward and kicked. Pa! Song Liangqing's head rolled along the ground. Just like that, the deputy marshal of the Celestial Empire and the commander of the Southern Patrol was beheaded. Lin Muyu took a handkerchief from Qin Yin and wiped the blood on her hand. She looked at Song Liangqing's body and said, Do I look like an executioner? No. Qin Yin murmured and shook her head. Lin Muyu didn't say anything. After returning the broken sword to Situ Shui, she said, Put Song Liangqing's head in a wooden box. 7 days later, send it to Qin Yu in Huiyuan province. Tell him to cut off his head and put it in the box. I will use these 2 heads to pay tribute to Su Jiantao's spirit. Situ Sun gave a fist salute and sent someone to carry it out. On the other hand, Situ Shui said, Marshal, there are still more than 3,000 Southern Patrol soldiers trapped in the alley at the East City Gate. They are begging to surrender. What should we do? Shoot them all. Yes, Situ Shui nodded and said, Among them, a few are Song Liangqing's counselors. Should we kill them too? No, keep them. They are still useful. Okay. The Battle of G City ended quietly. The outside world didn't even know about it. At night, the 3 armies rested and reorganized. G City was very quiet. I heard that Sir left a few Song Liangqing's counselors alive. I wonder why? Wei Chou said with a rice bowl in his hand. There was a table full of good dishes in the meeting hall. All the generals who had performed meritorious deeds were eating here. Although it was bloody outside, Everyone had a good appetite. After all, they had been in the army for so many years. Seeing dead people was like having a meal. Lin Muyu also held a bowl and said, Chen Yu thought that he could rely on Song Liangqing's southern patrol and the Rat Men army to hold me back, but he would never have thought that we would break into Ji City and destroy the Rat Men army and the southern patrol in just 5 days. The Celestial Empire has a vast territory and abundant resources, but most of the army is gathered in Scorching Han City. As far as I know, the Terminating Earth Corps is also in Scorching Han City. Together with the various garrisons in various places, Scorching Han City has at least 500,000 soldiers. As long as we can defeat these 500,000 soldiers, Qin Yu will be at the end of his road. Wei Chou frowned and said, Sir, do you plan to destroy the 500,000 soldiers of Scorching Han City with our 200,000 soldiers? Lin Muyu said, This is the reason why I left behind Song Liangqing's strategists. I want to use these strategists to lure Zhou Binlong out of Scorching Han City. Lu Bai held his bowl and asked. Lin Muyu smiled. Let these strategists write a letter asking for help. Say that there is a war in Ji City, but there is enough food and military equipment, and the Southern Patrol can still hold on for a month. Furthermore, the Longdan army camp has suffered heavy losses in the past few days, and they have lost more than 100,000 soldiers. With such a big bait, I don't believe that Zhou Binlong can resist leading the Terminating Earth Corps to reinforce them. Once the Terminating Earth Corps reinforcements, we can take advantage of the situation to set up ambushes along the way and destroy the Terminating Earth Corps in one fell swoop. Then we can change into the Terminating Earth Corps' flag and uniform and kill our way to Scorching Han City and destroy Qin Yu's nest. Everyone was shocked. To them, Lin Muyu's plan was too daring. If it was an ordinary person, they would not even dare to think of it. Feng Shi frowned. Marshal, Scorching Han City is 800 miles away from here. If we were to travel a long distance, I'm afraid that we will suffer heavy losses. Furthermore, we will be deep behind the enemy lines and might be surrounded. Yes, it's just a suggestion. Lin Muyu nodded. Intercepting and killing the Terminating Earth Corps is the first step. Quickly attacking Scorching Han City is the second step. If we want to be safe, we will only take the first step. Furthermore, this first step must be taken. This general agrees. Wei Chou put down his bowl and cupped his fists and smiled. Zhou Binlong is not some scholarly general. It is impossible for him to not be anxious when he has military merits. Furthermore, the Terminating Earth Corps under his command is the second strongest army in the Celestial Empire. Destroying the Terminating Earth Corps will be a heavy blow to the Celestial Empire. Sidu Sen and Feng Shi also raised their heads. Lin Muyu said, Then prepare to carry it out after eating. Strictly seal off the news around Ji City. Don't let even a fly out. In addition, prepare the army for war. Once there is news of the Terminating Earth Corps, report to me immediately. At night, the flames of war in Ji City had just been extinguished. The surrounding dozens of miles were filled with camps. The bonfires in the camps formed a sea of stars. The gods and demons in the sky, the mortals on the ground, and the vast land. It made people wonder who was the ruler. Western Divine Realm, Training Academy's underground secret chamber. The light was faintly discernible. Terralyn, who was sitting on the ground, suddenly heaved a sigh of relief. She slowly opened her eyes, which shone with a golden light. The 4 wings behind her slowly stretched out, and she smiled in surprise. Have I regained the power of a battle angel? You know this the best. Shi Yan smiled. Beside her, Eva said, All right, now that even the last one has awakened the power of a battle angel, shouldn't we old gods declare war against the enemies who invaded our homeland? Shi Yan murmured, Only by raising the banner of our Western Divine Realm in the Radiant Temple can we attract more people to join us and fight against the power of the Demon Realm. Li Fei said, The Radiant Temple has 5,000 Mara guarding it. How are we going to take it back? Shi Yan glanced at everyone and said, We have 7 gods. Eva and I have recovered about 80% of our powers. Li Fei, Terralyn, The two of you have recovered about 60% of your powers. That's enough. 7 gods are enough to destroy these 5,000 Mara. But we can't do it at night. We have to fight under the rising sun tomorrow morning. Yes, Lady Xian. The next morning, when the first ray of sunlight fell on the radiant temple, the nocturnal Mara were already drowsy. However, they were destined to not be able to sleep peacefully that day. Rays of light representing angels fell in front of the radiant temple, and battle cries rose into the sky. Xian and Eva, the 2 seraphs, opened the way and slaughtered the Mara army. In less than 10 minutes, the only holy king of the Mara army, Charlevon, was injured by Xian's sword and fled the western divine realm in a hurry. Meanwhile, only a few hundred of the 5,000 Mara were left, and the radiant temple was finally back in the hands of the angels. After taking over the radiant temple, Xian used the star cavern to send an oracle to the various planes under the jurisdiction of the western divine realm, ordering them to do their best to protect the radiant temple. 3 days later, while Xian and Eva were still asleep, a rumbling whistling sound suddenly came from the air. The angels rushed out of the temple and saw huge objects slowly descending from the distance. They were actually interstellar battleships. In the era of the old gods, this kind of interstellar battleship was looked down upon by Claude, Xian, and the others. But now, seeing these big guys, they actually felt a sense of familiarity. Terralyn was ecstatic and said, This is the flying ship of our light clan." The battleship slowly opened the hatch, and an old figure walked out surrounded by everyone. He said respectfully, "The light clan is here to report to the 2 seraphs, Xian and Eva. Unfortunately, we have lost our divine power and can only rely on this means of transportation to come here. Please don't take offense." Terralyn smiled and threw herself into his arms. "Father." Xian and Eva looked at each other and smiled. It might be difficult for an interstellar battleship to fight against Mara, but it was better than nothing. Chapter 1206. Demon Realm, Fekta Temple. Has the entire evil Luo army set off? Ziyan stood in the temple department, looking down on all directions. "Yes." Holy King Baifeng said respectfully, "Isn't Lord Ancestor Emperor going to lead the Mara army personally?" "No need." Ziyan glanced at the god-destroying pagoda in his hand. There was a faint golden luster around the pagoda, like a divine weapon that was not yet fully refined. The ancient crack on the god-destroying pagoda has not completely healed, and its power is not at its peak. Otherwise, how could it not have killed gods like Tang Xiaoxi and Qin Yin? I must stay in the demon realm and continue to cultivate the god-destroying pagoda. Holy King Baifeng, you and the 2 holy emperors shall head to the 6 realms to quell the chaos. The more people you kill, the more spirits I can collect in the demon realm, and the faster the god-destroying pagoda will be repaired. Yes. Baifeng took another look at Ziyan. Then, Ancestor Emperor, I shall leave the demon realm? Go, and come back alive. Baifeng floated away, his figure quickly disappearing into the wind. In terms of lightness skill, there were not many in the demon realm who could be compared to Baifeng. Even the world-destroying Holy Emperor and Juju Holy Emperor might not be able to beat him. In the Chaos Realm, the light energy of the broken 6 realms seal danced in the air. Dong, dong, dong. The sound of the war drums thundered. Ancient giant beasts flew out from the Devil Realm. The Devil Luo on the back of the giant beasts beat the war drums with all its might. The sky was densely packed with 2-winged Devil Luos. In just half a day, countless Devil Realm armies had entered the Chaotic Realm. Their next targets were the 4 Heaven Realms, as well as the tens of thousands of planes in the Mortal Realm. The Demon Realm was powerful, and Ziyan had planned to unify the 6 realms from the start. At the same time, the Golden Light was peaceful. Fuxi and his 4 disciples looked solemnly at the scene of the Demon Realm troops in the Illusion Pond. Everyone was so depressed that they could not speak. "Master!" Mue furrowed her brows and said, "The demon world is staking it all on this one throw. What should we do? The number of righteous gods in the Mahayana Heavenly Tao can be counted on one hand, but the power of the demon world is frighteningly strong. The strength of this divine war is extremely unequal. Fuxi raised his head and looked at the sky. There were layers of clouds and the sound of thunder could be vaguely heard. He sighed and said, as the demonic realm grows stronger, the demonic beast underworld servant will also become stronger. He will attack the metal more frequently. Once the metal is breached, the heavenly Tao of Mahayana will be shaken. When the heavenly melody scroll loses its footing, the 6 realms will truly be finished. What can we do now? Guard gold. Fuxi looked into the distance and said, and wait for the changes in the mortal world. I hope that you can comprehend the heavenly Tao of Mahayana as soon as possible. With his aptitude, once he comprehends the heavenly Tao of Mahayana, the power of the 6 realms against the demon realm will be greatly boosted. Don't be distracted. The demon beast underworld servant is coming. Prepare to set up the formation. Sword chi and divine power surged in the sky as a huge, resplendent sword shot into the sky and clashed with the demonic beast, the dark servant. This battle between gods and demons had been going on for a long time, but mortals were unable to pry into the secrets of metal, nor did they know that there were gods from beyond the heavens fighting for them above metal. June 22nd, drizzling. It had been drizzling for 3 consecutive days, but it was more like a spring rain that nourished everything. People could even hear the sound of tender sprouts breaking through the soil. On the mountain ridge outside G City, a peach forest had already budded and was about to bloom. All living beings had finally waited for the day of revival. Under the peach tree was the temporary military camp set up by Lin Muyu. In order to prepare for the attack, the Longdan army camp did not stay in G City. Instead, it was in the east of the city, ready to go at any time. Thud, thud, thud. Amidst the sound of hooves, a light rider galloped up the mountain. His face was full of excitement. He held a military report in his hand and said, Marshal, military report from Scorching Han City. Read it. On the 20th, Zhou Binlong sent an order from the military camp in the south of Scorching Han City to send reinforcements to G City. There are 350,000 soldiers, including 200,000 from the Dijue military force and 150,000 from the Far East military force from the 5 provinces in the eastern region. There are a total of 120,000 cavalrymen and 230,000 infantrymen. The marching speed is about 100 miles per day. It is estimated that they will arrive at G City in 8 days. Which route is it taking? The fastest route is to cross Zilin and Hanyan provinces and directly reinforce G City from the south of Hanyan province. Maybe, the cavalrymen will arrive a few days earlier. All right, you may leave. Send the order to continue to gather information. After the messenger left, Wei Chou frowned and said, they came so quickly. It seems that Zhou Binlong is determined to win. Our false report is working. Lin Muyu smiled. The 350,000 soldiers in Zhou Binlong's hands are the elites of the Celestial Empire. As long as we take down this army, it is almost equivalent to destroying half of the Celestial Empire. I will inform General Feng to restrain Xinyu from the western battlefield so that his Tianjue military force can't leave. This way we can succeed. Fengxi said, where does the marshal plan to choose the battlefield? Lin Muyu looked down at the map and said, I have been thinking about it for a few days. We will leave G City and march 300 kilometers north. That is the Hanyan wasteland in the north of Hanyan province. A day ago, I went to the Hanyan wasteland to survey the terrain. The entire wasteland is very open, but there is a pass in the south that is suitable for blocking. There are 2 key points in the west and east of the wasteland that can ambush our cavalrymen. This way, we can use the magic crystal cannons and the infantry to block the enemy head-on and force them to engage in battle. When the battle is in a stalemate, the nearly 120,000 cavalrymen lying in ambush in the east and west will launch an assault and destroy the formation of Zhou Binlong's 350,000 soldiers in one fell swoop. The rest is a hard battle. Fengxi took a deep breath and said, the terrain of the Hanyan wasteland is indeed suitable for ambush, but choosing this battlefield is destined to be a hard battle. I am afraid that even if we defeat the strong enemy, our losses will not be small. I know, but this is the fastest way to solve the Celestial Empire. Otherwise, when everything recovers and the 5 grains are harvested, the Celestial Empire will have an endless supply of military food, and the soldiers of the Qin Empire will have to fight on an empty stomach. Speed is the most important thing in war. Getting rid of the Tianjue military force within half a month is our most effective way to win. Yes, I understand. Feng Shi cupped his fists. Wei Chou also cupped his fists and said, Marshal, please give the order. Longdan Army Camp, the 120,000 cavalries of the Bai Zhe mercenaries will set off tomorrow morning with 5 days of rations and water. We will head towards the Hanyan wasteland through the dense forest and set up an ambush at the east and west valleys. Remember to move stealthily, do not go on the main road, and do not be discovered by the enemy's eagles and war eagles. Feng Shi will lead 60,000 cavalries to set up an ambush at the West Pass. Wei Chou will lead 60,000 cavalries to set up an ambush at the East Pass, and the rest. 150,000 infantrymen will follow me tomorrow at noon. We will travel 100 miles a day, and set up camp in the southern forest of the Hanyan wasteland 300 miles away. Situsen said, Marshal, 150,000 infantrymen marching with great fanfare, I am afraid we will be discovered by the enemy's spies. What if Zhou Binlong changes his mind? Don't worry. Lin Muyu smiled. That is to let their spies discover our main force of infantrymen. We only have 150,000. Zhou Binlong will definitely want to devour our main force. Furthermore, there is no turning back. Zhou Binlong has already led the army out. He cannot turn back. Zhou Binlong must understand this simple logic. Once he turns back, his morale will plummet, and they will lose without even fighting. Si Kongyao blinked her eyes and said, Zhou Binlong is a valiant general, and the Terminus Earth army under him is a strong army. Adding the garrisons of the few provinces in the Far East as well as the Cold Smoke Province and Zilin Province's garrisons added together, this battle will definitely be a tough one. Brother, have you made your plans? Lin Muyu nodded his head. He grabbed the red stone that represented the End of Earth army on the map, and with a light clench of his fingers, he crushed the stone, and said, The End of Earth army is a strong dragon. If we do not fight a tough battle to destroy them, how can Qin Yu be convinced? Wei Chou asked, Then, should we keep any captives? Yes, try to minimize losses. Yes. Time passed quickly. 3 days later, the Longdan army camp, Bai Zhe mercenaries, and Armor Demon Camp's 170,000 soldiers under Lin Muyu's personal command arrived at the Hanyan wasteland and lined up at the mountain pass. At the same time, over 100 heavy magic crystal cannons were pushed to the front lines. The cold wind blew, and within 2 days, Zhou Binlong's 350,000 soldiers would arrive, and then it would be an unprecedented decisive battle. At night, the starlight shone on the plains. Lin Muyu brought Qin Yin, Tang Xiaoxi, and Si Kongyao to the fertile plains, to survey the terrain, and to relax. Luckily it did not rain these 2 days. Lin Muyu looked at the deep marks of the magic crystal cannons on the ground and said, if it had rained, the magic crystal cannons would have been stuck in the grass, and could not be transported. Tang Xiaoxi smiled and said, we should be thanking Zhou Binlong for his cooperation. Lin Muyu looked at the plains in the distance and said, there is no end to this place, and the field of vision is very wide. Our cavalry ambushes in the east and west are at least 30 li away, and Zhou Binlong would never have thought that we would ambush so far away, so when his cavalry encountered our infantry on the plains, they naturally could not help but attack. As he said, he smiled and said, as long as Zhou Binlong wants to make a contribution, then he will lose. Si Kongyao giggled and said, as a general, it is impossible for him not to want to make a contribution. Qin Yin looked at the bright sky and said, it would be great if it was that smooth. What is it, Xiao Yin? Did you sense something? Lin Muyu asked. I don't know. Qin Yin's delicate face was filled with worry and said, it is just that. I feel that the order of the laws has become a bit chaotic, and something must have happened to the 6 worlds. What do you mean? I am worried that the Devil World has already launched a large-scale attack on the Six Worlds. Once they enter the Six Worlds, their army will definitely infiltrate the Celestial Pole continent. This is the change that I am worried about. Lin Muyu muttered to himself, and sighed and said, "Man proposes, but God disposes. I have done all that I can, and the rest will depend on the will of heaven." That you're tuning in to the Wandering Hero YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.